Good evening and welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Adam Block, Chair of the Needham Planning Board, and I call this meeting to order. We have one person on our board that's by Zoom, so I'm going to do a roll call vote of those present. When I call your name, please say you are present. Paul Alpert.
I'm here.
Artie Crocker.
Here. Natasha
Spada.
Present.
Gene McKnight.
Present.
Very good. So all members, Adam Block, obviously I'm here. All members are present. This meeting of the planning board is being conducted in a hybrid manner and is also being recorded. All supporting materials for this meeting, including the agenda, are available on the town's website, which is needhamma.gov. The first item on our agenda this evening is the continued public hearing for the amendment to major project site plan special permit number 93-3 with Wingate Development LLC as the petitioner in respect of the property located at 589 Highland Avenue to add an additional 72 units of independent living to the previously approved 50 units of independent senior living. I apologize.
22.
To add 22 units
You said 70.
For a total of
72. Already, thanks for the math correction. Of 72
They came in
independent,
at big bucks for it.
72 independent senior living units, including 12.5% or 9 affordable units. With us today for the petitioner is Attorney Evans Huber. If you'd like to come to the table, as well as David Feldman, the SVP of Real Estate for Wingate. And if I may ask your name.
Yeah,
One
on the
more
record,
time for the
yes,
record,
sure, no
please.
problem. For the record, Andrew Stebbins from the Architectural Team Incorporated.
Do you want me to move you over to the panel so you're gonna be sharing anything?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
All right, so,
We have a more,
and to the table, and at the nick of time, is your name for the record, please, sir?
Tom Meyer,
Tom-
Park Design, landscape architect.
Tom Miner from Hawk Design Landscape. Excellent.
We also have some members of our team.
So would you like to introduce them?
And do you want them to be brought over?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So we have Brandon Lee from Kelly Engineering. We have Kirsten Brown from our traffic engineers. And Julie Smith. from TAP.
I'd say this line is full strength. For the record, while we're populating our friends to come over, I note that we've received a letter from Attorney Huber dated April 5. We received a revised set of plans dated, I believe, February 3rd. We received a letter from two letters dated March 21, each from David Feldman confirming construction and the trash removal plan, and a second relating to the generator, to the use of the generator on site post occupancy. We have received a design review board memo dated April 10, noting strong design and landscape improvements. We received an email dated April 19 from Tara Gurge, the town assistant public health director, relating to any additional food establishment and common food handling requirements. Also requesting sound buffering related to the rooftop generator. And then an email dated April 6 from our police chief saying no issue with the plan. A letter dated April 18 from our town engineer stating no further objections or no further comment. We have an email from Teresa Combs of 7 Utica Road relating to this application. And separately, for the record, also relating to the board's proposed ADU bylaw amendment for town meeting. that'll come up later for correspondence, but for the record, we have it here too. She's commenting on the same application in front of us presently. And then, do I recall that we received comment from Alex from our fire chief and Tom Conroy?
Yeah, I'm just remembering that you asked me to resend everything when we have a continuation, I think, but I didn't do that this time. So
But we did have,
I'm gonna check our file to tell you.
while you're
for sure.
doing that, thank you very much. We even emailed that, you mean that might have been from the original application?
That's right.
Got it. Email dated April 24 from Terry Ryan of 79 Evelyn Road. Mentioning all the activity happening in the Heights and requesting that all construction be preserved on site, which you're obligated to do anyways. So before I come to board comments, Evans, would you like to explain why we're all back together again and what the updates are?
Sure. So, well, we're back together again because we didn't get the hearing closed the last time.
That's a good reason.
There was a limited amount of time available for our application, so. We had gotten through our presentation. There were a few questions that were raised, either by members of the public or by members of the board. And that's what these various documents that we were looking to, this revised plan, floor plan, which was originally dated February 3, but the revision is dated April 4. And revised renderings, which are intended to show the fact that you will barely be able to see the rooftop of it. They are shown on the rendering to the extent you can see them. And then we had provided some additional information about some of the other issues that were raised in these written submissions. Some of the other issues that were raised during the last hearing. So from our perspective, we've made our presentation. If any other members of the board or members of the public have questions, we're here to answer them, but our hope and goal is that the hearing can be closed today.
Understood. Thank you very much. Paul, we'll start with you. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Artie, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of comments. One is, so the traffic study was based on half a car, I believe it's half a car per unit, I believe. Now, the concern I have is this. I understand, you pulled that from, let's say, traditional optics of this type of living situation. But this is so independent living where there is no public transportation right there. Clearly, I mean, they can walk to the Heights, sure, but there is no public transportation. There's plenty of parking on the property. My concern is this. A half a unit is too small for a traffic study. There's a lot more than half those units are going to have cars. Is again, independent living is just that. They want to be independent. And so considering that there's no public transportation right there, I think it should be upgraded. The study should be upgraded to, I don't know, 3/4 of a car, something more than half a car. Because half a car is not enough.
What? I mean, the parking requirement is too low.
No, parking, no, as I said, as you heard me, the parking is fine. It's a traffic study that I believe is flawed. It's not based on a high enough level of cars that will actually be at the property. There's a lot more than
Well,
half those people will have cars.
Kristen Brown is our traffic engineer. She's on the call on Zoom.
Can
Kristen
everybody-
is.
Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, for the record, Kirsten Braun, with Ron Mueller and Associates who worked on the traffic study. I don't know if you're discussing what's presented in table 1, the trip generation calculations that we provided in our study. It's on page 2 of our letter. But essentially those trip gen numbers are based on, they're not based on necessarily applying half a car to a unit. The numbers you see here, they're based on nationally accepted trip generation data for similar land uses across the country. These land uses are further broken down by types of area. This specific use, we were conservative. We didn't call it we didn't assume that it was in an urban city center or anything. But what basically breaks down the data is it looks at all different size facilities. And it comes up with, the data is broken down into trip generation rates. And what we do is we apply those rates to the number of units. So here would be 72 units. The numbers you see in the table are reflective of just the peak hours. So that's 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, and then 1 hour during the Saturday midday peak hour. So it's not necessarily all the cars that are going to be leaving necessarily in the morning. It's just within that one peak hour between 7 and 9 a.m. So that's why I think you're seeing numbers that might look low. As it is with most developments, specifically residential developments, not everybody leaves their house within the same hour. So that's why I think there might be a little bit of confusion. But it's not based on half a car per unit. It's based on actual data collected at other similar land uses.
Except for it was specifically told to us that it was going to be based on half a car per unit. So that's the amount of car, that's the amount of cars. No, that was very specifically told to us, half a car.
Now, half a car per unit.
Per
is
unit.
the parking requirement for this type of housing in this zone.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's what Ms. Braun is saying is that's not the basis for the trip generation.
Anything else, Arnie?
Okay, I do have I still have a problem with that, but, okay, the other thing is that. I don't quite understand why there's absolutely no renewable energy on this building. A brand new building, brand new third floor. And there's plenty of roof surface there, and there's absolutely nothing on there. And if we don't do it now, when will it ever be done? This is a special permit. We have a leeway.
So.
Yeah, please.
Can I respond to that? So we did look at it. We're taking a building that's 80% natural gas and 20% electricity. We're moving that building to 95% electric
Mhm.
and only 5% natural gas.
Mhm.
Our heating system is gonna be air source heat pumps. The condensers have to go on the roof. There's
Yeah,
no.
and you show them, you show them here.
Yep.
You show them there, taking up the middle section of the roof. Yeah, and there's plenty of roof space there.
So the total square footage will allow 0.5 megawatt of solar.
Mhm.
With the condensers, with the ERVs, according to our consultant, we'll get less than 0.2 megawatts of solar on that roof.
And so you get around 200, around a 200 kilowatt DC system.
Right. So when we factor that into the cost, including all the rebates and tax credits, we're looking at a 10-year payback.
Okay,
A 10-year payback, return on investment for us is not something that we can afford in this environment.
okay, well, I haven't seen a 10-year payback on a commercial system with a 30% tax credit and depreciation.
Well,
I haven't seen that on a flat roof like that. I haven't seen that.
well,
So the point being is companies are doing this that want to do it. Companies that don't want to do it aren't doing it. And it kind of boils down to that. Again, I have not seen a 10-year payback. If you want to show me the numbers, I'm happy to see them.
yeah.
But I have not seen the numbers of a 10-year payback on a commercial system like this.
Well, I mean, we can have this discussion. I've had my consultant give us the numbers of what the cost of the installation is,
Mhm.
what our benefit is from the solar, and what the actual cost was after rebates, and factor it in, it's a 10-year payback.
Okay, again, and I haven't seen that. And so basically what you're saying is every commercial system,
I'm not saying every
commercial building to a large degree with this type of size system will be essentially a 10-year payback.
I'm not saying that. In this particular instance, every building's different,
Mhm.
right? So in this particular building, this particular location, with the amount of heat pump condensers that we have on the roof.
Well, that'll affect the total size of the system, and obviously, the bigger the system, you can have a little bit better cost of volume. I appreciate that. But still, it's a 200 kilowatt DC system. It's not a small system.
It's not a small system, but the cost is not for us, it's, to spend $300,000 on a solar system, the payback's just not there for us.
Mhm.
Not in an environment with rising interest rates and increased construction costs. We just can't afford to spend the $300,000. However, we are gonna participate in community solar. That whole campus is gonna be on a community solar program with Eversource.
Could you bring power to the roof just in case in the future you decide to do it?
Yep, yeah, there'll be pathways in the building to get to and from the roof.
So it could be
Yeah.
that you could make it solar ready just in case 10 years from now you decide that the technology has changed and you want to do it rather than so that it can set it up to be as efficient as possible.
Correct.
What is the kilowatt hour rate you're basing your number, your 10-year payback on, and what's the utility escalator rate you're basing it on?
I'd have to go back to my notes to see what they carried for a rate.
Is, I mean, that's everything, carrying a right rate, carrying a wrong rate.
Mhm.
What's the escalator?
Yep, no, you got it.
I mean, I have a big problem with no solar on this, but huge problem.
And for the record, you're a professional in the solar industry.
Yeah, I'm a solar engineer in the industry, and so I have some idea what I'm talking about.
I didn't say you didn't.
No, I
No,
understand.
that's not funny. I understand you didn't say, I didn't understand you didn't say that. What I'm saying is I've never seen that. It would be nice if we actually had some facts backing up what you're saying as far as it's a 10-year payback. That would be useful to see. If you're talking about cost of $200,000 for a 200K system, that's pretty cheap. That's a pretty damn good cost. I suppose I don't know if you're basing it on before or after 30% tax credit.
So, according to our consultant, it's 125 kW system. 220,000 kW, offsetting about 25,000 a year in supply and distribution costs. System will cost about 360,000,
What's 220,000
220,000 kilowatt hours.
off of what size system? You're never gonna get 220,000 kilowatt hours off a 125 kW system. Not even possible. So I'm not sure where these numbers are coming from, because that's not possible. I would like to see something. If we don't do it now, it's perhaps never gonna happen.
And then you'd want to make a condition for your approval that it includes solar.
I would like to make a condition where it includes solar and an actual study of how much solar can actually be out there. I think it's only the right thing to do.
Do you have anything else, Artie?
No, I'm just a little concerned about the traffic study. In general, I mean, I like the project. I love the project, just, great project. It would be nice if there's a little bit more than 12.5% affordable housing. You can go up to 20, 18, 15, something greater than 12.5. But I like the project, but it's missing something that should be there. It's missing renewables. And I have a little question with the traffic study, because I heard half a car based on the traffic
So
in there,
we're actually reducing traffic from its prior use.
based on half a car. I understand what you're saying, but based on half a car. It's not, those units are not gonna be half a car per unit.
I don't,
If it's helpful,
I
I
would disrespectfully disagree, Mr. Crowley, that that's what the traffic study is based on. It's the parking, not traffic study trip generation.
Oh,
if I
But
may,
you're saying, oh, Natasha, I'm sorry, go ahead, Natasha.
if I may,
No, sorry, Kirsten.
yes,
Go ahead.
this is Kirsten. If I may, I can send, if it would help with understanding, I can try and make scans of the exact data sheets that we use to determine the trip generation that's shown in the study. So you can see, because there's different rates and equations that we use.
We have it already in the study. We have your material.
Yeah, but again, I'm basing it on what was told last time, also, and what's material, but it's based on half a car. And if you're saying there's parking, we're still half a car. But those units are not gonna be half a car units. These people want to be independent, which means they want a car.
May I say something here?
Sure.
Please.
We're dealing with a project that's going to be independent living. And for people who are 55 and older. So there's going to be a large population in this building is going to be retired. Now, I'm in the estate planning business, and the estate administration business, so I'm very familiar personally with going and visiting people in independent living facilities. Okay, these are people, as I said, a large percentage are retired. They're not going out during rush hour. They're going out at various times during the day. They're going out because they're going shopping. They're going out because they're going to doctor's appointments, and they schedule those all through the day.
Okay.
They don't generate, like, if you had an apartment building where you had people who were normal workers, pre-COVID, which we might get back to, where people are going into the office so that they're driving from 7:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning every day, and they're driving, you know, and heavy traffic from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 o'clock in the evening. That's a concern. What we have across the street, which is a commercial facility, people are going to be going in and out during rush hour. People who live in independent living facilities who are retired, they're spaced out during the day. They're not going to generate traffic problems. In fact, they're probably going to schedule their appointments so that they avoid rush hour traffic. I'm not worried about the traffic study.
But there's enough parking on the premises for all the units.
There's more than one parking space per unit right now. There's, even with the reduction, with 72 units, I believe the parking size 81, is that right?
Something like that. It was
Yeah.
around 80. that we
I
got.
think it was
It's
81.
it's
Because
more
as I
than
recall, there's 98 spaces on there right now. We're
And
taking
then-
17 to increase the green space and which leaves 81 for 72 units.
Yeah, as long as there's enough parking, which I knew there was.
Yes.
And thank Paul, that was good to frame it that way. Thanks, Paul, appreciate that. That was good.
Thank you.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, that's it.
Jean, do you have anything?
Just a couple of things. Did you mention the email from Teresa Coombs? I think.
Yes, it is.
Terry, I thought you said Terry Ryan, but I must have misheard.
He did both. We had both and he said both.
Oh, all right. I only saw Teresa Coombs' email.
The other one came today.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I missed them. She objects to there being a third floor because the nearby homes are not as high as that. And just we didn't mention that, and concern about insufficient parking, but we've talked about that and we're satisfied with that.
Gene, my recollection is, and we don't have the materials from before, but and maybe Evans can confirm this, but my recollection is the third floor is as of right. Because the zoning.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's not something we're granting a special permit.
we're not granting a
Well,
special
thanks for the
permit.
reminder on that.
For
Yeah.
the
Okay.
third floor, we cannot deny it.
All right, so I think anything I had, one thing I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. And that's, we're talking about a half a space per unit, and it was said that that is the parking requirement in our zoning bylaw for independent living
In this zoning district, that's true.
in this district.
In the elder services district.
In the elder services.
Which
That does surprise me. I do wonder.
it doesn't for me because elder services, the former use of this, elder services included a continuum of care
That's
or
true.
skilled nursing,
Mhm.
which would have had a substantially less parking requirement than it would typically for independent living in comparison.
Mm. Okay, I'd like to think about that more, but of course it doesn't have to do with this particular application because they greatly exceed that anyway. And then just want to make sure I understand what was said about solar. There was something said about participating in some cooperative or something.
Community solar.
Community
program.
solar, okay. And so, there's something about having the sufficient electric supply, what is on the roof? What was that?
It's the square footage of available space on the roof. Once you factor in the location of the heat pump condensers, the ERVs.
It's insufficient square footage. But something was said about,
Natasha, that's us.
something about
Two
what?
things. Yes, that she,
Community electricity?
no. I think what you're thinking about, Gene, is that Natasha raised this question of whether or not, when the construction is done, the
Oh,
building could be wired such that solar can be
yes,
installed in the
Exactly.
future.
yes.
Exactly. And the answer was yes. Mhm.
Right,
Okay.
so that it's solar ready, so that when,
Yes.
if at any point they want to add it, they don't have to do a lot of destructive work.
And very often that is something we look for and we do have it. Okay. That's all I had. I did find the fire chief's note from previously, so everybody, all the friends and officials seem to be satisfied with it. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Natasha, do you have any other comments or questions at this time?
No, that was my only question.
So at this point, I'd like to open up to public comment. Is there, I see we have one person online that has a hand up. Does anyone in the room have any comments or questions about this?
Yeah, just,
So before, what I'd like you to do is if you could, Artie, can you move your chair, please? Move your cup from your chair. And then if you could state your name and address for the record, please, that would be helpful.
Sure, yeah, Terry Ryan, 79 Evelyn Road. I wrote the letter in, or the email. Just want to say I'm in support of the project, for more neighborhood housing and, as well, I wrote about the traffic, but it's more just for the construction side. I'm more concerned about just, putting on the additional roof, or additional floor, everything's taking place, within the parking lots and not on the street, just because there's so much activity. Well, hopefully there'll be so much activity with both mentioned other projects, but, with the economy turning around.
So that would be a typical condition of special permit that the construction
Equipment is all
take
stored on
place
site.
on the
Yes.
site.
Yeah,
not-
just cranes and everything, whatever you gotta take to get up on the roof and do the work, just, as long as it's on site, out of the roads and all that.
You don't anticipate renting other
No,
space not
no,
belonging to
I
you,
mean,
right?
one of the advantages of this product is that the facility is closed. So we have ample parking spots to, have our lay down area for the cranes and
Definitely,
construction workers. So there'll be no,
appreciate it, thank you.
nothing off street. And I don't think that we'll be in construction at the same time, both. entities. So I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Good, okay, all right.
Do you have any other comments or questions?
No,
Thank you
that's
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Rob Dangle, I see that you have your hand over. We're gonna bring you over in a minute. If you could, Rob, we can't see you or hear you.
You really want to see me, huh?
Yeah, live and in person.
Yeah,
Name and address for the record, please.
sure. Rob Dangle, 28 Hewitt Circle, Needham. I live right down the street from the project. In general, I am in support of more independent living in Needham. I just had a couple of questions around the affordability aspect of the project. My experience with Wingate in the past is that their units are pretty pricey. And I just want to know, have they disclosed what the costs for these units will be? Because that is a concern of a lot of seniors in our town along affordability. And I just want to make sure we're addressing that. And on top of that, I would encourage the planning board to go for more than the 12.5% minimums or the 12.5% requirement if we really do care about affordability, and go more towards a 20% affordable for this project. I guess I'll throw everything out there, and then I'll let the petitioners talk. And then, already took some of the words right out of my mouth. I think that we should insist on solar if we're granting a special permit. While a 10-year payback, actually, I think is pretty good. I have solar on my roof, and I wasn't expecting a payback for 12 to 15 years. And I think now is the time to do it when a petitioner is going for a special permit. I get that you need to have a certain rate of return, but we also should have some benefit, not only to the environment, but to Needham. And what a better time to get some of these benefits than, when a petitioner is coming to the town for a special permit. So I think that as a resident, I would urge you to insist on solar for this project. And, another question I had for the Wingate folks is, are they going to have any kind of shuttle for the residents to reduce the traffic? And will that shuttle also be electric? And thank you for your time.
lot to unpack there. So right now, our base rates are between 3,500 and 6,000 a month, depending on unit size, unit location, everything. We haven't finalized our rates, but based on the comps, it's going to be right in that range. Shuttle services, depending on the activity, if there's a group going out, yeah, we'll provide a bus and provide transportation for our residents when we have a group out. We're not going to provide transportation for one-offs or two-offs, but as a group, we will be providing transportation. As far as an electric bus, that's not something that we're not going to supply with the facility. The transportation will be provided by a third party for those events. What was the other? I think there was one more question.
Level of affordability, the percentage of units that will be restricted as affordable.
So the bylaw says 10%. We've gone 12.5% as an agreement with the planning board. When we did the 50 units, we carried that forward with the additional 22 units. I don't see us going any higher than that.
And so the affordable component would be at 80% of the area median income, is that right? Or at a lower percent?
Whatever the town of Needham.
Well, I know there's a set of regulation. I mean, I'm not an expert on how these things are actually placed and determined, but there is a detailed set of regulations on how the cost of affordable units is set.
Right.
So we would have to follow whatever those regulations are.
Based on, I think, the percentage of the area median income.
Yeah, whatever that percentage is.
Our bylaw calls for 80%.
80% is what I got. So-
Area median income.
At the upper end, a $6,000 a month unit would be 4,800. A 35.
No, I don't think that's the right words.
No,
It's not 80% of what you were.
it's not 80% of the
Right,
market.
Based on,
Right. Yes.
It's
Right,
based,
thank
it's
you
based
for
on
clarifying.
the resident income.
Thank you for clarifying.
May I make
Yes,
a comment, which of course
actually,
is,
before you do,
well,
someone else in the public wanted to.
well, this is specific to one of the
Affordable
issues
component.
that was raised, which is, and of course, this is not something for us to condition, but it's my recollection that as part of the project at Bullfinch across the street, that they're going to be having shuttle services from that location
Right,
to the T-stop. And I just want to make the suggestion that, once everything's built,
right,
perhaps you could reach an agreement with Bullfinch that
Right.
would allow your residents to be able to avail themselves of the shuttle service.
if they continue to use the MAPC 128 business shuttle, that has typically, prime time, AM and PM peaks. And to your point earlier, it may be off schedule, but to the extent that it's not, and it could be a benefit. I think that for non-tenant employees, I think that there is a certain rate that's calculated that may be an advantage to both of you.
And I think
But they may choose their own.
it may have been something in our discussions with Bullfinch about having that service available to
Yeah, that there is a condition that they participate in a shuttle service.
And so we're in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so once we're built and once they're built, we'll have a concierge to arrange transportation for our residents, and I'm sure they'll be on the list to provide that.
Good. Anything else then? Colleen, would you like to come to the table and say your name and address for the record, please?
It's Colleen Shaler, Avon Circle. I'm chairman of the board of directors of the Council on Aging, and I just wanted to reiterate that the board voted unanimously on March 9th to support this project wholeheartedly. We are emphatically happy that this is going forward and will help in any way to make sure that this project works. With or without.
Supply transportation to.
Well, we've got shuttle, we have buses.
That's right.
If you all want to vote to buy us more buses, we're happy to do it. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I don't see
Actually,
it.
that's a good idea, which is coordinating with the senior center.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, because our shuttles pick people up and it's free of charge if people wanted to come from this project to the senior center.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands online. Is there a different view? But yeah, I don't see anyone else. So, and I don't see anyone else in the public that wants to speak physically present.
Have you commented yet? I wasn't sure if you put your comments in there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks very much, though. Alex, are we outstanding anything on this file? Yeah. So my comments are, I think this is, it's a different use, but a similar type senior living use. I think that there is a desperate need for independent senior living in town. I think this is an excellent project. I don't have many further comments beyond that and others that I had made previously, except to say that, Artie, you talked before about, because this is a special permit, we can require solar, and someone else in the public had mentioned that too. I don't see anything in the review criteria where it does talk about that, but just as a note to flag this for when we do deal with climate action zoning, that, we could amend the review criteria to allow in the future for solar. And this would be an example of how it could be implemented. But with that said, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
Well, actually, what I would like to ask is this, what other facilities do you own? Or how many facilities, where are they at?
We own two other facilities in Needham, obviously on that campus, Pittsfield, Haverhill, Kingston, Mass, and two in Rhode Island.
And do you have any renewables on any of the buildings?
No.
Anything else, Artie?
That's it.
Can I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second, we have a motion by Paul Alpert and a second by Jean McKnight. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker.
Aye.
Natasha Spada.
Aye.
Jean McKnight.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We unanimously decided to close the hearing. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll give you guys a minute to reset, unless you guys have anything else. Well, the hearing is closed, so. Yeah,
Close, we don't have.
There you go.
That's the
All right.
key.
Something else on the agenda, I think.
Very good. Yeah, you guys.
You want to give staff a sense of whether we should draft an affirmative decision and any special conditions outside of the norm that you might want us to add?
Thank you very much. I would recommend if the board agrees to, direct our traditional decision. Do you have any
I
other?
think all of the conditions that we want are already shown on the plans, the landscaping, the architecture. I can't think of anything that we asked for
Extraordinary.
that isn't shown.
I would like us to at least consider the solar aspect of it, because I understand the community solar park. And I appreciate that. It's a very good thing to do. A lot of times what happens there is the community solar it's an outreach to companies a lot of times that don't have any options. Homeowners that don't have options, companies that don't have options, but having solar themselves. It doesn't mean companies that add solar don't also do community solar, because the reality is a lot of commercial businesses can't put enough on their roofs. But what those that do, it is an opportunity lost. So I'd like us to at least discuss that some more.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Chair, you with us here?
Yes.
Because this is something that I think I'm asking you to do.
Yeah.
This is not a special permit. This is a site plan
Yeah.
special permit.
Mhm.
And I would like to check with town council as to whether a condition about adding solar is something that is permissible
Mhm.
under a site plan
Mhm.
review, major project site plan
Mhm.
review, because I'm not clear in my mind. If this were a special permit use,
Mhm.
then I would say, yes, we have the right to condition solar.
Mhm.
But on a site plan special permit, I'm not sure that we do, and I would like the chair to check with town council on that.
I'll do that. I mean, I've talked about this before with town council and it being a site plan review and it's not part of the criteria. It's not a conditional action.
Well, I think we should, I
Let
think.
town council
Sure.
interpret
Yeah,
our.
like I said, I'm happy to speak to town
Do
council.
you mean that you don't? Not gonna make a decision until our next meeting anyway.
That's
but
right.
You want an opinion from town council before we make a decision.
I'd like an opinion from town council as to whether we have the authority.
I'll reach out to town council and I'll relay the information to Alex and she'll relay to the board. Okay,
Great.
good.
Our
Thank
next
you all
meeting
very
is May 16th, so we'll have a decision ready, we'll send you a draft for usual. May 16th.
Thank you very much.
Will be a town meeting.
So next up on our agenda is a hearing for an amendment to major project site plan special permit number 1991-01 for Cook Restaurant as petitioner, requesting more than 30% increase in seating capacity for outdoor dining and also requesting an additional parking waiver for outdoor dining. Alex,
Chair, I move that we waive the reading of the notice.
I was coming there.
Second.
You beat me to it. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Artie Crocker. Natasha Spada.
Aye.
Jean McKnight.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We unanimously decided to waive the reading of the notice of hearing. With us this evening is who?
Diana.
Sepulveda? Diana, can you hear us? We cannot see you or hear you. You're muted. Diana, we can still not hear you and we cannot see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can we see you?
Okay.
Are you?
I'm Charlie. I'm using my phone and I'm trying to put my camera on. I don't know if it's the way I logged in. All right.
I understand.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you. So yeah, I think we are planning to do something nice for the patio this spring. Nothing really major. We did go over with the design board about the materials we're using. We just plan on having more seats. We're planning to have about 10 tables. 8 of them would hold 6 guests, and 2 of those would be 2 tops. We did all the planning with our architect, and they look good. I mean, it's wheelchair accessible, but I think it does. I mean, our patio is nice, but it definitely would look very much more nicer when we bring in more tables. And our idea is just to be able to seat more people outside. Just because after COVID, people are still asking a lot, even during the winter time, that they call and they always ask if we have outdoor seating. So this will definitely be a good opportunity to bring more people in, and to have an opportunity for people who do like to dine outside to do so. Yeah, so that's where we're coming from.
Thank you very much. For the record, we received the following items. Plan set dated February 21, a letter dated March 15 from Edison Gutierrez, and an updated letter from Edison dated April 24, correcting the number of seats. We have a design review board approval dated April 10. We have an email dated April 19 from Tara Gurge, our Public Health Assistant Director, noting that the increased seating requires an additional bathroom, but you've identified in your letter dated April 24, and I believe here tonight, that you actually have fewer number of seats that fall below the threshold for an additional bathroom. And then we were subsequently received by email today from Tara Gurge, removing the additional bathroom requirement. Also, Tara Gurge acknowledged that there's an increased food permit fee, perhaps because of the overall increase in seats. We have our standard public health policies for outdoor dining and pest control. I want to confirm, have you and Edison had a chance to review those requirements from the Department of Health?
We have not heard from them, but we're definitely will take that on. I mean, we do have a company already, so it's I don't think it would be definitely an issue, but we would definitely reach out to her or have her reach out to us to see what are the requirements.
So what's the traditional process for the Department of Health to inform the applicant of the requirements?
I don't.
So,
Well, we have, of course, the memos that we received.
which you have not, have you received them and you haven't reviewed them, or?
They're on our website, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Our memos, we always send to the applicant. But in terms of the applicant working with the health department, I
That's their own
don't know
process.
that process.
So you're already an existing established restaurant. So I'm sure you're not, although you've taken over the ownership more recently. So you'll have to familiarize yourself with those, but yet included in our packet, which you have, are materials, an email from our Department of Health, which outlines their requirements. And we're gonna make a condition in our decision that in which you'll be required to follow all of their public health policies and guidelines and rules and procedures and regulations. So you'll probably want to familiarize yourself between now and the time that we issue the decision.
And Mr. Chair, this is that amendment to the special permit, so that condition is probably already in there.
Right, and yet because it's new ownership, it probably makes sense for you to familiarize yourself with, those requirements. Very good point, Paul. We have also received an email dated April 5 from our building commissioner, Dave Roach. His only comment was again, discussing the need then for an additional bathroom. However, by email dated today from Dave Roach confirming 148 seats, which is compliant. I presume that that means that he is acknowledging an additional bathroom is not required.
Mhm.
So for the record, Alex is acknowledging yes.
Yes, he's satisfied with the situation.
Very good. And we've received an email dated April 5 from our police chief that the police is okay if the barriers in the parking lot are sufficient. And then we've also received an email dated April 24 from our police chief having no concerns. A letter dated April 18 from our town engineer, Tom Ryder, with no objection. Email dated April 24 from Timothy Bulger of 265 Harris, supporting the parking waiver. Also making another comment that I just wish to clarify for the record that it makes a comment that waiving parking minimums gives the freedom for business owners to decide what's appropriate for parking. But that's actually not the case. And in fact, the planning board retains discretion on what the appropriate parking standard is based on the fact and circumstances before us. Alex, is there anything else outstanding on our file?
No, but can I just say something about what is actually before you tonight?
Yes.
The outdoor dining section of our bylaw is a little bit confusing. In that, in a situation like this, which is unique, I don't know if we've done one like this yet. Maybe, well, no, the James they're all unique. They've all been unique so far. But in any event, so what they are requesting from you is an additional parking waiver. That is because the outdoor dining section of the bylaw says for their approved number of seats in their existing permit, if they are asking for more than 30% of that approved number outside, then they need an additional parking waiver. Under 30%, they would not need an additional parking waiver. Now, some of them, even if they're under 30%, this is a different circumstance, would need to come back to you to amend their special permit if it's on private property. But this one is on public property. So the actual outdoor dining component of this is going to be reviewed subsequently by the select board. So right now, this is in front of you because their existing special permit needs an additional parking waiver due to the request of more than 30% of their approved indoor seats outside. And also as part of this, they're requesting to reduce their number of approved indoor seats from the previous 132 to 96. Because that's what they actually have, and they will meet all of the requirements of the building code and plumbing code and whatnot. So I just wanted to be totally transparent about exactly what's on your plate.
Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions, Paul?
No, I think Alex explained it.
Flawlessly?
That, now that the issue of requiring an additional bathroom is off the table, the only thing that's in front of us is parking. And everything else goes to the select board.
Jean?
Yes, given the change from the reduction in the number of indoor seats, do they still need a parking waiver beyond what they were previously granted?
Because the outdoor seating is now more than 30% of the indoor seating.
That's the reason. Oh, okay.
So 30% of
The math is already in the file.
that's complicated because I guess the question is, what are you doing first? I mean, right now, their approved number of indoor seats is 132,
But they actually have 96
which
for indoor.
exactly. But the way it's written and the way we've applied it. For example, French Press is approved for 28 spaces, but currently they have 6. Or some inside, maybe 10. But it was 30% of the approved number, which was 28.
Okay.
So I think that it makes sense. So complicated, but I think it makes sense to first do the 30% of what's approved
Yes,
and then reduce what is actually approved to 96 so that anytime we have to do any of this in the future, 96 is the number.
right.
But this is its own circumstance, and if the board has any different kind of interpretation of how this
I
should work.
recall that a special permit's required, notwithstanding parking, but also the parking. Because they are requesting an additional outdoor seating at more than 30%.
That's the parking.
That's
It
what
relates to
triggers the
parking,
parking.
right.
I think that we should be amending the special permit to reflect the 96 seats.
Yes,
In
agreed.
order to in order to take away any question about
Yes.
whether there needs to be another bathroom.
Right,
Mhm.
Because the additional bathroom may be based upon the approved number of seats. And so if we have the full number of seats that they're presently allowed indoors, plus the number of seats that they're adding outdoors, that creates an issue with the
right,
with
which
the
is
second
good.
bathroom. So I think we should be amending the special permit to reduce the number of seating indoors. And
We are,
this is a restaurant in the middle of downtown Needham. There's no parking on the premises, so, we have to grant
Yeah.
parking waiver to bring them down to
Agreed.
0 no matter what.
agreed. Gene, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just trying to get my head around this. So, they presently have, and I'm content, to have that the approved number of indoor seats be 96.
Correct.
They have 52, or they want to have 52 outdoor seats, which greatly exceeds 30%. And in fact, it's more than
Right, but that-
50%.
Right.
And the waiver for parking is related to the extent that the outdoor seats exceed.
What triggers
30%.
the requirement that we review the parking is they're going over 30% of the indoor seating. If the outdoor seating is less than 30% of the indoor seating, this is what I'm getting from
You're right.
reading material for tonight. If the number of outdoor seats is less than 30% of the indoor seats, then they don't need us to give a parking waiver at this point. They can just go ahead and do it. Go to the select board and get their select board approval for the outdoor seats. But it's the number of outdoor seats being more than 30% that triggers the requirement of a parking waiver at this time.
So it triggers the requirement for a parking waiver. But how many seats are they deficient that they need the waiver for?
They don't need a waiver for the seats. They don't need a waiver for parking.
I mean, excuse me, I misspoke. I realized that and I just used the wrong word. How many parking spaces are they deficient?
It doesn't matter. They don't have any parking. We have to grant them a parking waiver so that the requirement is 0 parking spaces. They can't have any parking anywhere.
But
The only
Paul,
parking is gonna be in the municipal
They
lots,
asked specifically for a waiver of 3 additional parking spaces.
because they already have a waiver for a certain number.
I think
If they
that's.
give them that, does that take care of it?
It should.
that, but Alex,
Yeah,
that's, I don't think this notice of hearing was corrected to the revised number. So the waiver that's reflected here is not accurate with, in fact, the waiver of the one parking spot that we're ultimately voting on, correct?
Oh, is it one parking space? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
Are we waiting
That's-
for 3 parking spaces or some other number?
I believe it's one. Is that right, Diana?
Yeah, I think it's just with the number, but the barriers are already there. and We're not just moving anything. I think there is already 3 parking spaces, if I'm not mistaken. They're taken up by the barrier, so.
But Paul, you're saying, so if we look at the original permit, the special permit they allowed, was that 126 seats? What was originally, Alice, what was originally allowed?
It says 132, doesn't it?
132?
132.
But if, so I mean, if you look at 132, and if we look at, 30% of that, that would bring the total seat to 171.6, but their total seat's gonna be 150, the total
48.
seating, 148. So that means that technically they're not 30% of the original special permit. They're not 30% greater. They may be 30% of greater what actually is there now.
No, it's a question of the outdoor seats versus the indoor seats.
Yeah, I understand,
It's a 30% requirement based on, so 30% of 96 is
32.
is 32. They're having more than 32 seats out.
No, I understand that, but I understand that, but should we be basing it on the 99, which it went down to, or the original permit of 126?
Should you be basing what on that, the waiver you grant?
Well, the 30% increase in the original amount of seats that technically we thought they had,
Well,
and they were granted. If we base it on that, then they're not
Either
going over
way-
30%.
30%. Either way, 52 is more than 30%. So it doesn't really matter. They're in front of you either way. But Jean's point is, what is the waiver we're granting them?
Yeah.
And if their total number of spaces,
Is the number of spaces based on total seats or based on indoor seats?
it is based on total seats.
Okay. So,
But the that
But-
changes. Because if, in the winter, it's different than in the summer,
Yeah, but we just
Okay.
grant them the waiver for.
we just granted the waiver.
for the greatest
Yeah,
number,
yeah.
which would be the summer.
But I do think, actually, the way we did the other decision gave them the whatever the 30%, whatever the number of parking spaces that the 30% number of seats would be, we gave them. And then, like, subtracted, and then the parking waiver was granted on whatever is left after that.
It says there, it was secured a waiver already to reduce the number of required on-site parking spaces from 54 spaces to 0 spaces.
That's
And
right.
now to ask for a further waiver, it's like, I guess it's still gonna be 0 spaces.
Right.
Right,
So it's that you'd say they're used from X spaces to 0 spaces.
Right.
What is the X? It's still 0, it's not 1 or 3.
I leave that to our staff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can work.
Well-
To spend time on this.
So that they don't have to have any spaces.
Yeah.
However it's worded.
let us know,
Their letter of April 24th, which is only yesterday. Their letter dated yesterday
Somehow I never read
states
it.
that by their calculations, they need a waiver for 3 additional parking
Well, to
spaces.
be fair, I was helping with the calculations, so these might be my calculations, and it's possible I missed something.
Whatever it is, I think we want to grant a waiver so that the number of required parking spaces is 0.
Marty, do you have any further?
Oh, I say,
Should you-
we want 0 at the end. That's what we want.
Natasha, do you have any comments or questions?
I have one,
No, no. Oh, sorry.
sorry, I have one
Sorry,
quick question.
No,
Um,
Diana, this is for Natasha, who's one of our.
Sorry,
board
I heard
members.
my name. I apologize.
No problem.
Okay.
Natasha, go ahead.
I have one quick question. It looked to me that, that you have 3 accessible tables, right? So in, next to the entry. And I was looking at accessible seating, so that seems, all of that seems fine. My question was, the entry and the exit is kind of at the entrance of Bagels Best. And I know that there's a 9'10" clear space to come out, but, have they seen the plan just to make sure that they didn't have any conflicts with it?
Yes, I spoke to Danny.
Okay.
We met, we introduced ourselves and we kind of went over and I spoke to him directly and personally, and I have his number and he's really nice. We're
Yeah.
kind of just going forth, but he's aware. I think he's also might want to do something, but I definitely contacted him and we're on the same boat.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it seems like part of it is kind of, moving towards his access out of his store, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, what it is probably the decorations, but most likely we're not going to put anything that definitely will interfere with either accessibility or his side either. So we'll definitely have that in mind.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Does anyone, thank you very much, Natasha and Diana. Is there anyone in the audience at home that has a question? I don't see any hands up on Zoom. I don't see anyone with their hands up in the room that rhyme. So, do my colleagues have any other comments this time? Would you like to
More
make?
motion?
I
No,
do.
actually, just a quick,
Oh,
should we be seeing the plan? Should we be seeing this plan?
No, because that's up to the select board.
It's not in
The
front of us.
Stevens,
The only thing we have jurisdiction.
oh, the parking waiver.
And they
Got
did,
it.
we did have materials.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
There's
there
already-
was a plan.
Exactly, it's
Oh.
included in our materials.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, but we don't have.
Okay, so can I have a motion to close the hearing, please?
So moved.
Close the hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to close the hearing, a second, motion by Paul Alpert, second by Artie Crocker. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert,
Aye.
Artie Crocker.
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Jean McKnight.
I,
The chair votes aye, the hearing is closed.
Let's direct our staff to prepare.
Thank you.
Prepare a decision.
Go ahead.
I move that we direct our staff to prepare a decision based on our discussion tonight.
Very good.
Remember our discussion tonight.
I don't know if we need a motion for that.
We probably don't.
Okay,
We just need a decision at our next meeting,
yeah, and that would be the May 16th.
May
meeting.
16th.
next, on our,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
can we take a quick bathroom break?
Yes, let us recess
Thanks,
for
Diana.
5 minutes. Diana,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. It is 8:11, so we will recess until 8:16. So is the owl on right now? So people at home can hear us and see us. Paul, you ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay. So Natasha, can you hear us? Oh, there you are. You can hear us and see us. Good.
So
So,
I'm muted, Natasha.
Yeah, I'm muted. I'm not, I haven't said anything, but I'm here.
okay, so, all right, next on our agenda is 920 South Street, our definitive subdivision, decision. And then also, which we'll come to, is an agreement for the a security agreement related to the Scenic Road Act and the Public Shade Tree Act. But let's cover off our decision first. Okay. Does anyone have any comments on the decision?
Yes, I have two comments.
Jean, how many comments do you have?
I have, 4.
You have 4 comments.
So,
Yes.
Maybe
I know you
they
did.
overlap.
but they might overlap because
Yes.
it looks like,
Okay, I understand. We'll come to that.
okay.
Artie, do you have any comments on the decision?
No.
Natasha, do you have any comments on the decision? All
No,
right. So, 1 second, we're gonna bring George over. George, you're muted, but can you hear us and see us?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so
Paul, you go ahead.
in the second paragraph of the decision, where describing the legal description, there are quite a few typos in there. But I think that the easiest solution is to just take out that second paragraph altogether, because all that we need to reference for the legal description is the third paragraph that references that this is lot number 16 on the plan number 2417R, which is a land court plan, and therefore that's sufficient for the legal description of the property. So I would recommend that we just take out the second paragraph on the first page. That's my first comment, and my second comment is really a question. When I got to paragraph 20, the hours of construction from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We really allow construction to go as late as 6 p.m.? Shouldn't that be 5 p.m.?
I can check, another one we did on South Street and just see.
I don't see what problem would arise from 6 p.m.
Just a question of disturbing neighbors that close to dinner time. I mean,
I have a bigger problem with 7:30 a.m., but that's.
well, I think our bylaw starts at 7 a.m.
Yes.
I think our
it's
noise
7 a.m.
bylaw starts
Yeah.
at 7 a.m.
I didn't
To
mean.
me, it's a question of noise.
Right, I understand. So Alex, you'll look into that.
Alley Raisman Way was 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
That's what we have, right?
Yeah, I was just questioning it because I thought, having construction noise until 6 o'clock seemed a little late.
Jean, do you have any?
I don't particularly have a problem with the noise, but
Paul, were you done?
I'm done here.
Okay,
yeah, a couple of things. On page 4, we list that numbered 1E, the waiver of the sidewalk requirement.
mhm,
And it gives in the last sentence, in the granting of this waiver, the board considered. And it recites things we considered. But what's left out, and I remember this being discussed, is the lack of a sidewalk on South Street, the public way that provides access to the proposed street. You know, you could just say the lack of a sidewalk on South Street. I put it in just before the final one, and the dead end nature of the proposed, no, excuse me, I put a comma.
Yeah.
In the last line after private way, comma, the dead end nature of the proposed street, comma, and the lack of a sidewalk on South Street.
I think that's a good change.
And maybe that's all we need to say. We don't need to say the public way that provides access. Okay, so that takes care of page 4. Then the next one is, I just wondered, there's a reference on page 7 to building inspector. Haven't we been trying to use?
Building
You're right,
commissioner.
Commissioner, it's right in the middle, paragraph that's,
Paragraph B, 20B.
Letter B, 20B. Should be commissioner. And then, the next page is just a typo on page 8. The paragraph that is numbered 32. The string of clauses in the first 3 lines are not a sentence. What you need to do is after the phrase, power to serve these, comma, small a as applicable, comma, shall be shown in an amended version. See, and the location of underground power to serve these, comma, as applicable, comma, be shown. Is that it?
So the changes are just comma and then small a.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then page 9 is just a question, why is the Buffer Street strip covenant highlighted? Is that something we need to discuss?
Nope, you may ignore it. That, and the reason it is because when I drafted it, I highlighted a couple of things that I wanted to question or just come back to, and that was accidentally left in.
Okay, those are my opinions.
George, you're muted. Do you have any comments or questions?
No, no, and I agree and have no issue with any of the proposed revisions mentioned so far.
And then to our butter, do you want to speak to anything here? You come to the table though. Thanks a lot. And we'll need your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Sergey Aliyev, and I reside at 31 Magan Drive in Needham, which is direct abutter of this project. I am also concerned about the time of start the construction and the end of the construction. But if town allows this time frame, then kind of agree to this. That's all I can say about this.
Or what would you rather say?
At least start maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning. 7:30 seems a little bit early, but again, if the town allows to start at 7, I heard. Here, then
believe me, they're putting up a house right behind my house and they're starting.
yeah,
at
so
7
that's
o'clock
why
in
I'm
the morning.
saying I'm not going to argue about it. If town allows it, then so be it.
And does it matter to you whether it's 6 PM or?
Probably, I would rather see it stops at 5, but again, if town allows it, the construction to go until 6 PM, I'm not going to argue.
I don't know. Already under the subdivision control law.
No, it's in the noise bylaw.
Right, which is a general bylaw.
Yeah.
So it's in the general bylaw, 7:30 to 6.
I think it's 7
7 to 6.
Oh, it is 6 in the general bylaw, then I would.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I would stick with 6, and if we're able.
I
to
would-
reach- By saying 7:30, I think we should.
Can Alex just verify that that's the,
And the hours will be, I think we can move forward, but the hours will be reflected consistent with the town. general
I
bylaw.
understand, that was my comment.
Okay.
And if I may, the a few of the sort of more recent subdivisions had the 7:30 to 6. Not just Alley Raisman Way, but I think also the 6-lot subdivision off of Central Ave. Sunset, was it Sunrise Street? As well as I think there's another one off of South Street that was also 7:30 to 6.
To answer the question at hand, construction activity conducted pursuant to a building permit which causes noise to extend beyond the property line shall be limited to the hours of 7 AM to 8 PM.
8 p.m.
So.
8 PM. Oh, geez. Oh, man.
We'll stick with the 6.
I don't think we'll stick with the 6.
7:30 to 6 is sounding pretty good.
You show up at 7:30, they're probably gone at 4.
Depends. I'm familiar
Yeah.
with construction very well myself, so it depends how you manage them also. But again, I'm not going to argue about this. I mean, it is what it is. If, I mean, this bylaw says this, so then I'm not going to argue about it.
Do you have any other comments or questions?
Not really.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your involvement.
So, would someone like to make a motion to grant the relief requested?
Well, I think where this is a subdivision, do we have to, are we approving the subdivision or are we just approving the decision?
Both.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we approved the
So I
subdivision.
move that we approve the subdivision based upon the plans that have been submitted and approved. And then I also move that we approve the definitive subdivision decision with the changes discussed.
Second.
We have a motion by Paul, a second by Artie. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert,
Aye.
Artie Crocker,
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Gene McKnight,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. We've approved the subdivision. Next is the motion to approve the decision as modified this evening. The written decision in front of us is modified this evening. Do I have a motion?
I made a motion. And already seconded.
Part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of
So
the
moved.
Technically, we should have had two separate ones, but yes.
Yes.
You did both.
Second.
I missed
Second.
the end. Well, hey, we have one motion that's resolved it, I guess. It's resolved. Well, thank you, very good. So the next item on our agenda is a security agreement for the same property under the Scenic Road Act and the Public Shade Tree Act. And the reason for this is the builder would be required to provide money in escrow that the town would hold as they promise to do certain work. And then only after that work is done to the town's satisfaction, then the board releases that escrow. And that agreement is not presently drafted, so we are not going to deal with that item at this time. We'll deal with it once it's prepared. Okay? So that then brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is
You can still vote the relief under the scenic road.
already,
No, the same road act in the public shade.
Well, what's? So we have to approve the. Or we don't know what they
The
are.
terms of the agreement, you won't be voting until you see it, but just the relief that he requested so that I can draft the agreement, you could do
Okay.
if you want to.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we grant the relief requested under the Scenic Road Act and the Public Shade Tree Act.
Second.
a motion by Paul Alpert, a second by Artie Crocker. Any discussion? Hearing none, I come to the vote. Paul Alpert,
Aye.
Artie Crocker,
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Gene McKnight.
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. So that's for the relief under the acts. And
Yes, that's it.
I think that's it. George, you have anything else?
No, I believe that's it.
All right, very good. Next up on our agenda is the agenda for April 27th of the Board of Appeals cases. And the only case is the, thank you very kindly. Thanks for participating in the process.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Is an application effectively from, for Olin Campus to install a solar canopy. Does anyone have any comments on this? Paul, do you have any comments? Gene, do you have any comments? Artie, do you have any comments? Natasha?
Oh.
My only comment is we dealt with this, I think, recently in Babson or Olin. And I remember we did have a question about the drainage. I don't see anything about the drainage here, but that's come up a couple of times when we were dealing with solar
Well,
canopies.
you're right, we should make some comments about that.
I think all I would do, because I don't have enough expertise in this, but maybe raise the question to ensure, I would expect, actually, you may know this, Alex. As part of the ordinary decision for the ZBA, they naturally require conformance with the storm water management.
They request comments from the DPW like we do on projects like this. So the DPW would have them comply if they're required to comply.
So I would just I would just vote or move that the comment be that we query compliance with stormwater management and any runoff.
100% agree.
So motion by the chair,
Second.
second by Artie Crocker. Any discussion? Hearing none, will come to the vote. Paul Alpert.
Aye.
Gene McKnight,
Hi.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Artie Crocker. Chair votes aye, we're unanimously decided. So then this brings us to our discussion on our bylaws and to deal with assignments. I can say, just to deal with an easier point, on the assignments, have already built, or I'm in the process of completing to build a deck for all of these, for all of the 4 zoning articles.
So you want to present all 4? Great, thank you.
Unless anyone has any other comment.
Works for me.
Well, 2 of them will probably get a pass
Well,
without question.
Right, well, so just
Perhaps.
on that point, so the corrective zoning amendment should be simple enough,
Yeah.
and the next one is actually technically a mouthful to chew off in a conversation. I don't know how you guys,
Which one is right?
the side setback. So I've been working with.
Visual, did you
I
say?
was just about to talk about that. So I've been working, and I just wanted to give credit to Tom Ryder. Because he and Eric and other people in his team have been very helpful in developing some drawings, which I'll use, which will be able to, in my deck, to illustrate the significance of the article, and I'll be as quick as possible. Now, let's deal with 3-car garages. I wonder if our discussion with the select board might have been a little mischaracterized, but nevertheless, this coming from the building commissioner and the ZBA, we've heard a lot of comment about this article, and the select board effectively voted not to support it by a vote of 4-1. Notwithstanding.
Did the finance committee vote on this?
No, the finance committee took no position on this
No position.
because they have no financial impact. So
And as I said at the select board meeting, I really regret not making sure John Schneider, the chair of the zoning board of appeals, was present at that select board meeting, because he might have been more convincing than I was able to be, or you were able to be, about the importance of making this
although
change.
I'm not sure that his comments would have moved the board differently.
Sure, I just have a comment in general. I feel that I understand the idea that if you don't have a special permit for it, then there's no, the neighbors can't really comment on it, which I think was what Heidi Frail was saying. And I understand that. I think that the bigger issue is that, I guess, understanding that in general, you could still have a large house, if you, as long as you have the correct FAR, you can still have a large house with the same bulk of that third garage. Because it's based on the FAR, right?
In other words, you're speaking to the point that the square footage of the third bay is included in the overall calculation of FAR for the main house.
So that gets to the comment that John Schneider made,
Yes,
which is that really the difference we're talking about is whether you have a garage door
yes,
or a
right,
regular door.
right.
And a
And-
garage door does create a wider driveway. So there is something to be said about that. But what he's saying is that no matter if they come in as a special permit, the majority of them that come in are still getting approved.
Yes,
Vast majority.
the vast
Only
majority,
two.
hardly any get
Only two.
denied.
And although that they've been denied, because you need a full vote of 3 board members. You know, there was a question of whether or not they were denied on the basis of the standard of review under their authority. So, but if you know, if someone wants to make a motion to withdraw the article, and maybe we can revisit this later.
Well, I'm just concerned.
Want to make a motion?
No, I'm just want to just talk about it a little. I think we just need to talk about it a little bit more. So, I mean, certainly this is a valid concern to say that the neighbors now have no input. And the fact is, there's only been, what, 18 over 3 years, whatever it is, and 16 passed, 2 didn't pass. Certainly the fact that if they're not going to need a special permit, the odds are there's going to be more of them. Relative percentage.
Well, that
wise.
was, actually, that was a question that was raised last night in the room that I was in. And I didn't have the answer, and I thought maybe Gene might have the answer. How many permits do they get every year?
We have a
How many
spreadsheet.
requests?
We have a spreadsheet of that.
You have access to that, Alex?
Yeah,
Alex is
I mean,
gonna
a
find it.
special, and I do have to say, a special permit does discourage a little bit. Right, not to have to go in front of a board to, so there is some, it does discourage. I guess what I'm getting to is, I don't think the issue is the third garage. If 16 of the 18 were approved, I think the issue is more of the size of the FAR related to a lot.
And we've
And
certainly been hearing a lot this year from a number of residents about the size of new construction. But, go ahead, Gene.
having been at the meeting, I will say that at least one member of the select board was very adamant about it's too pro-car. We should be trying to get rid of cars. And essentially, she did not say this expressly, but I think the idea would be we should just not allow three car garages at all.
Right,
Yeah,
Right.
that was the point of view.
yeah, and
I think she expressed that at the select board meeting.
That's
Correct. Correct.
I mean, and, I mean, look, there's commentary on this, but I don't know that it's our place to provide it, so. I'm not sure that this is gonna be easy lifting. We have, you know, all third car garages will continue to be needed. You know, a special permit. If we don't move forward with this, then we can review it later. Does someone want to make a motion to withdraw?
I want to get the answer to the question of how many
We had from Daphne.
requests there have been.
Do you have? did Daphne
Means
send you-
request for the 3-car garages?
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
I mean, the whole point that why John Schneider was coming to us
Yeah.
was because he was saying, we're getting these applications, it's a waste of our time.
Because we're
just
approving them
granting
anyway.
them. And so part of the question that I think was raised by the select board was, well, if it's an insignificant number to begin with, what's
I
the
have
big
it
deal?
I have it too.
What is it?
It's, so in 2018, there were 5, in 2019, there were 5, in 2020, there were full 3.
3?
In 21, there were 2. In 2022, there were 3.
So you're talking about 5 or fewer applications in a year.
Yes,
And John Snyder's complaining that that's taking up too much of their time.
I'm not gonna make a commentary on that.
I am.
Well-
I'm prepared to withdraw it.
Well, I don't want, I appreciate, they're very busy over there. They do a great job. They have a lot that they're going through. So I can appreciate that they're trying to find some way to just relieve their workload. Again, my concern is if we take this away, there's gonna be a lot more of them, because now they won't have to go through the hurdle that they have to go through. And now the neighbors won't have anything to push back, anything to look at or comment on. I don't know, I'm fine withdrawing it. I
So-
won't lose any sleep over withdrawing it, but I
I'm fine
respect.
with-
I
I'm fine
respect
with drawing it
John's
also already. I'm
respect
fine,
John's position.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna stand in the way of that motion to withdraw, but I will say that, there's a misunderstanding on the role of the special permit for 3-car garages. The standard of review under their authority is not what color is the door, what color is the house. It's not the landscaping or the size of the house. The only item is an adverse impact. And that to the chair of the ZBA is whether there is a diminished value of land to a neighbor. And nobody has come to the ZBA with any evidence or any argument to that effect. So I'm just raising that for the record.
Do you have a bylaw in front of you that has that standard? I'm not sure that I'm agreeing with the interpretation of the standards. To say that the only standard is, does it diminish the value of the next door neighbor?
Yeah, it seems like it'd be more than that. But what article? Well,
We'll come to it in a minute.
No, comments.
Start in the bylaw amendment?
Six
That's what
point
I
one,
thought,
6.1.
But, I don't seem to have the, maybe I do, maybe I do, wait a minute.
It's not noted in that. It
Oh,
would-
here it is, 3-car garage. Section 6.1.
Yes,
Section 6.1 of the bylaw.
Yeah.
Right.
provided for the road use will not alter the character of the premises. Will not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land or buildings or structures in the neighborhood or amenities thereof. Will not produce noise, odors, glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property.
I'm sorry. Adam.
Page 198, 6.1.2.
It's in the.
6.1.2.
It's right here.
Here. These are the 3 standards.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
well, certainly it can violate A.
It's the premises, Artie. The
Yeah.
addition of
Yeah.
a 3rd-car garage from a
Yeah.
2nd garage
Yeah,
doesn't
that's a matter.
materially
That's
alter.
a matter of opinion, will not alter the character of the premises in which it was located. Clearly, someone can have the
Okay,
opinion.
Already,
that it alters the
that's-
character.
A neighbor can't complain on that.
Will not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land and buildings or structures in the neighborhood, comma, or on the amenities thereof.
So
So,
it does have to do with the effect on the
Value.
neighbor.
right, it's not the value of the amenities, it's the effect on the amenities. I mean,
A neighbor's house is an amenity.
what? Well, it's a subjective, it's a very subjective standard. That will not alter the character of the premises in which it is located. That's a subjective standard. So it's not just, does it have a material adverse effect on the neighbors that value of their property? That's not the only criterion.
Have you spoken
And then
to the chair of the ZBA to understand the interpretation of the policy?
Many times.
Right, and he explained this, Paul.
Well, no, but I can read it myself and I can interpret it for myself, and reasonable lawyers will disagree. And John
You
Schneider is a
don't have to be
reasonable
you don't have to
lawyer.
be a lawyer to do that either.
Reasonable people will disagree. I wonder if his complaints was that people were raising issues that had nothing to do
Yeah,
with the garage. And
yeah,
I mentioned that last night, and the response I got was part of the job. We have that all the time here, Artie and I were on the Conservation Commission. I don't, it happens all the time.
Oh,
It
yeah.
happens more often on the Conservation.
Oh, yeah.
Commission, Where people come in and, they want to talk about something that's nothing to do with the wetlands.
Sure, and I'm not jurisdiction, so.
Has anybody discussed that possibility of withdrawing it with John Schneider?
yes,
Oh, good.
And he's left it up to us, right?
yeah. So I think you had made a motion to withdraw, it, right?
No, I haven't made a motion yet at all,
You wanted.
because on the other hand, I'm Jewish, Adam.
Any good lawyer.
On the other hand,
What's the other hint?
on the other hand, we voted for it. The select board disagrees with us. Leave it up to town meeting. We can have a discussion and let town meeting vote on it.
That's what I think.
I think if we're not entirely confident on this thing, and they're not pressing us for it, let's move on.
I
It's
agree.
not pressing.
The
ZBA.
ZBA at this point.
Because John Schneider said if we want to withdraw it, it's okay with him. But he left it up to us. He didn't say,
Well,
let's withdraw it. He said, if you guys want to
I think-
withdraw it, he's not going to complain.
Natasha, go ahead.
I just think we have more other important pieces that should be reviewed. And I think that this one, we can always come back to it next year once we get more information, but if the ZBA is okay with withdrawing it, I'm okay with withdrawing it.
So does someone want to make a motion to withdraw?
I'll make a motion to withdraw the article for the 3-car garages.
Do I have a second?
Second,
So we have a motion by Artie, a second by Natasha. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll come to the vote. Paul Alpert,
Aye.
Artie Crocker,
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
I,
Gene McKnight,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So 3-car garages. I will also inform the town council and also the town moderator that we are withdrawing the 3-car garages at this time. Now comes ADU. I'm gonna exercise a little prerogative here. I've had countless hours of discussion with so many people on ADUs, and both positive and negative. There has been this talk about various amendments to the thing. I think on this, I go back to the goals. What are we trying to accomplish for the town? And I think that's the most critical element of this. And that's to do the most good here. To do the most good for the most people. And I think that our public policy, frankly, is spot on. There are people that will object to the idea of the setbacks. 5 feet, 12 feet, the delta being 7 feet. There are some people that will object to the concept of detached versus attached. There are some people that are going to object to that, perhaps to other elements of the thing. But that speaks to them. That doesn't speak to us as a board. To speak to, I'm not done yet, Paul.
I know.
To, to speak to the public good, that we ought to be able to allow in the most reasonable circumstance possible, access to housing to create the opportunity for more affordable housing. Yes, it's true that on this article, the, FinCom was, because the planning board was not able to quantify the impact, that they therefore, on that basis alone, all except one member of FinCom voted not to approve our article. And I believe the select board did approve our article. I think allowing this as detached, allowing people to choose whether to rent it, allowing it improving the access and the occupants of the thing so that childcare workers can have access, grandparents and aunts and uncles. I think even detached, where if someone has an existing structure that can work and it conforms to this bylaw, that it serves a public good in doing so. And the real test is going to be the limiting factors of the dimensional regulations in our bylaw, the economic conditions of whether it makes sense economically to actually build one, the cost of trenching, 20 feet from, or even 10 feet at the closest point from an ADU to a main house to attach into the main sewer line and a water supply line. It, can be pretty prohibitive for someone, especially if they're trying to do it on a rental basis. But also the building code. And it's going to work for some people and it's not going to work for a lot of other people. Ostermertz has done an extraordinary study of the existing ADUs, all of which are in SRB lots. None of them have been in SRA lots.
Really?
And I'm
Oh, none of them? I know one of them, SRA, down in Muzzypool, there's a ADU down
and that's SRA.
there. I mean, on Utica, it's SRA, not SRB, Utica Road,
SRB.
SRB.
SRB,
So
SRA is the 1 acre zoning.
yeah. I thought you said they've all been taken place in SRA.
no, SRB, they're
Okay.
all in
Oh,
SRB,
my
not in
apologies,
SRA.
my apologies.
I know that people on this board disagree on the setback. That disagreement is gonna happen whether we deal with it today or whether we deal with it in October.
Yeah.
Whether we deal with it for existing properties, new properties, whether it's at 5 feet or at 12 feet. It's not gonna, there's no solution for anybody. But I think that the moral imperative is upon us. And if it goes down now, then that's a reflection of those that vote that way. And then maybe we reconsider it, in October. But I recommend that we move forward. And if other people choose to make an amendment on it, we deal with however the legislative body decides. But I strongly recommend that we move forward with our existing bylaw.
May I comment? Now you ready? Good, thank you. You have a very interesting argument, a very interesting question as to what we're trying to accomplish here. Because originally, a few years ago, when we put this in, what we were trying to accomplish was to provide for a mechanism whereby people who are getting on in years or have a disability are able to stay in their homes. That was our objective. The people on Beacon Hill disagree with us and more agree with you. The people on Beacon Hill say we need to increase the housing stock, and one way to increase the housing stock is by allowing ADUs. And so the question is, what is our objective? Are we agreeing with the state legislators that we should be using ADUs in order to increase the housing stock? And affordable housing stock, of the 900 square foot is a lot more affordable than renting an entire house. And so, that's part of our question. What, as a board, what are we trying to accomplish? My sense, especially after being at the League of Women Voters last night and speaking to a lot of people in town, is that there's very little disagreement about allowing leases. There's very little disagreement about increasing it to 900 square feet. There's very little disagreement about pretty much everything that we have except for the detached ADUs. There is quite a disagreement about the detached ADUs. If we do not make the motion ourselves to withdraw the detached ADUs, somebody else is going to make the motion. And the moderator is going to look to us for our reaction to the motion. So we can't just decide tonight, we're going to let it ride and let town meeting decide. We need to decide what our recommendation on that motion is going to be. Personally, I'm willing to throw it open to town meeting. Let town meeting decide. I think we have to decide, what our position will be on that motion.
Yeah.
It's going to be a late night. And it also means that we may be going 4 nights instead of 3 nights, because it's going to be a long discussion.
Well, the other thing is if we get to a point where it's 10:30 and we're at this, number of this point in the article, that maybe I'd ask the moderator to defer until it's the first thing on the next item, and then for the final, 8 minutes, we'll talk through these other and take a vote on the other 2 articles.
May I respond to something? Bringing forward this revision to our ADU bylaw, the focus has still been on enabling older folks to stay in their homes and to be able to rent out an ADU, or even to have some arrangement with the older person or couple who's into the ADU and rents out the main house, or has their daughter and son-in-law live in the main house. It's all to enable them to be able to continue to afford this single family home.
Correct.
With the taxes and the expenses. So I don't think our focus has changed.
No, that's why I'm saying it's even for that focus. I mean, that focus was before us many years ago, a few years ago, and Karen Sonnenberg was advocating at that time to allow leasing, renting for exactly that reason. We had a different board. There were members on that board who are not here tonight who were dead set against it. So we decided not to go that route. I agree that including leasing is a way to help accomplish that purpose. And I think we have a board here now that is willing to go there. And my sense of people I've spoken to in town is that town meeting will approve that.
And the Council on Aging, both 4 years ago and now.
They're definitely
very
in
much in
favor of it.
favor
Very
of
much in
allowing
favor of
the
it.
lease.
As is the Department of Health,
Yes,
as are, I think other boards as well.
Well, they're in
There
favor.
are some people
Liz,
who are
in favor
concerned
of
that
Liz.
it's, that we're creating two-family zoning. Or, in single family. Some people will call snob zoning. Which is where
Right.
Beacon Hill is, and which is where I believe your committee is too, Gene. Your committee, I think, is in favor of using ADUs. The housing
the
committee
housing, the housing
is,
plan.
is in favor of using ADUs for the purpose of increasing our housing
Oh,
stock
yes,
and our affordable
there,
housing.
just
stock.
mentioned, I think, in the housing plan of this enabling younger people to be able to live in our town, who might not otherwise be able to afford to live in our town. Our own grown children, for example, people who work in the town, yes, it's not just to help the older couple. It's also to enable people to live in our town who have some connection, particularly those who have some connection to the town who work here, or who live up here. And so
Well, Natasha, you want to talk?
Well, I guess the question is, if the only issue is the detached, do we feel strongly enough that it's gonna hurt the other parts of the ADU bylaw changes? And should we consider removing it, or as the chair mentioned, should we just leave it in, knowing that someone may bring it up? And if there's enough of a group that wants to remove it, to have it happen there, or is it gonna hurt the entire bylaw?
I think at this point, I'm gonna jump in for a second, Gene.
yeah.
At this point. At this point, anything can happen, whether we make a motion or whether, or someone else makes a motion to amend to remove detached. And it's possible that we'll have other motions to amend as well. I think it's reasonable to expect that.
What
And-
if there is no motion to amend and they just basically, they vote yes or no for as it is?
That's great. Then it is. then
If there's
it
a
is-
no, then we lose every aspect of it, is what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, I'm fairly certain someone's gonna make a motion to try to treat them separately. That's likely gonna happen.
I think the way the process should develop. And Adam and I have worked with town council on proposing an amendment to the bylaw to remove the detached element from it. And there is one town meeting member who was asked that if we don't bring that motion, he would like to bring that motion. In my mind, you have to remember something, first of all, under the new law, this is all majority vote,
Yes.
not 2/3 vote. Okay, and I think that's a very important consideration here. So I would like to see that if this is going to be an issue, it should be raised as a motion to remove the detached ADU so that that's voted separately. That's a motion to amend that can then be voted separately. If the majority votes to remove it, then everything else is still there in the main motion and everything else can pass. If the detached garage has, the detached ADU survives a majority vote, you've got the majority vote for the whole thing.
Yes.
And the whole thing will pass. The problem would be if the motion were to fail and it required a 2/3 vote, you might not get the 2/3, but where it's a majority vote, I think whichever way the detached ADU goes, I'm pretty confident that we'll have a majority vote to pass what's left of the main motion.
And I will say that I acknowledge that people, a number of people would have preferred there have been more public comment, on this, and already you said it wasn't vetted enough. So, but having said that, if the amendment. If the amendment to remove detached. Passes and the main motion passes. Then, I certainly would want, I will work to get detached, to review detached. And come back in October, having had more public consultation. And reconsider, the setbacks, but, and other elements of detached. And let town meeting decide. That answers kind of partly your question.
I think that's a discussion that we should have after town meeting, because I'm going to disagree with you, but purely based on timing. I think that if it doesn't pass and the main motion passes, but without the detached, I think bringing it in front of town meeting as soon as next October is politically unwise. I mean, that.
I understand that.
That shows us as trying to ram it down the throats of town meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just go some, I haven't commented.
Hold up, Artie, 1 second.
What's that?
Natasha, I'm not sure if you were done.
I'm finished. I just wanted to get your feedback on it. So yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Artie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So you're right, Mr. Chair. My concerns were that, it wasn't brought up to really truly be vetted. So a couple things come to mind is, so we're putting this over to the ZBA to decide, but really we've given them no guidance besides the basic building codes of what's going to go on there. Is there a fence? Is there not a fence? What type of screening? We've given them no guidance at all as far as what's going to happen, as far as the visuals to the neighbors themselves. So that's a concern. Getting back to the vetting. And seeing the impact on the whole community. I do believe this is, by voting this in, the detached, it really is, and the fact that those units then can be rented, it is in fact turning the whole town. Zoning for the whole town becomes essentially a burden.
I just want to get clarity. Do you support that or oppose that? A rental for an ADU? I'm talking about the detached part. So just please let me finish. Yeah.
So the fact that the detached then can be rented as a separate, essentially apartment is what it really becomes. Call it an ADU, but it's an apartment at that point.
Yeah.
The whole town itself is rezoned essentially like a multifamily. And when we bring anything to town meeting of subsequent change to the town, such as this, it really should be communicated to the town and talk with them before it ever gets to town meeting. We shouldn't be throwing something at the wall and see if it sticks. Needs 51%. We shouldn't be doing that with something as critical as this, but it's happening. But I don't think it was the right thing to do. So again, it's so the problem again is ZBA has no clarification. We get the town meeting. I think it should be separated. It doesn't sound like we're going to pull it now, the detached part of it. That's where the problem comes. I am philosophically in agreement with multi-generational living and what we can do. Absolutely. I've talked about that time and time again. How much that accomplishes, I don't know, because the fact remains is I can easily see some builders now, instead of building one house, now they're going to build two. Essentially, that's what's going to happen. They're going to build two houses. They're going to be sold as one, but it's going to be two houses. And that second house is.
Are they going to put a 900 square foot house?
They could.
Single residence B.
They could.
We do have FAR requirements.
And we.
I understand this FAR requirements. I understand this FAR requirements. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the fact is, if we're going to complain about, if we're going to say, well, what are the odds of them doing that, then why the hell are we voting this in the first place? And why are we even voting it in? We don't think the builder's ever going to do this. And the fact is, if we vote this in, the builders may very well be doing this. So the affordability aspect of someone transforming an existing structure, we're talking probably talking 250 minimum. It could easily go higher than that.
What do you-
Transforming an existing structure to be code compliant for essentially a house is extremely expensive. It doesn't mean I'd love to have that opportunity. I mean, it'd be great to have that opportunity at various times. But the thing is, it is completely rezoning the whole town to be in essence a version of a multi-family zoning now. That's what's gonna happen. That's what is happening.
That's what our friends up on Beacon Hill want us to do.
I understand, and I get that, okay. But we don't have to do it. I mean, we have the MBT Act coming through that, we have a lot coming to town meeting that we want to be able to communicate to the town, effectively educate where the benefits, why should we be doing this? And then try to do something to get something through. We need the town to understand why that's important. But here we are, we're coming to town meeting, essentially rezoning the whole town as multifamily. Plus, then we're gonna come back in the fall. Or next spring, And then something, a fairly big change again. I thought this went through a little too quickly. I understand it's there. But I just thought it went too quickly and we should have had more thoughtfulness into it, but thank you.
So on the rental basis, I would, whether attached or detached, regardless of the detached element, do you support?
I support the rental basis. I mean,
That's all I want.
yeah, the internal, it makes perfect sense. These people are doing that anyway. They're renting it, they're renting their rooms. I mean, that's going on anyway. Of course, they can rent or lease in the ADU. Of course they can.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything else?
Yes,
or-
I haven't said anything yet, I think.
Go ahead.
Not completely true.
Right, oh, I see.
You're usually so
No, I
shy.
did respond, yes. I did respond, sorry, yes. Well, with regard to what our position should be at town meeting, I am very much opposed to offering an amendment of our own article ourselves. Nothing has come up really that would make us think, oh, there's something terribly wrong with what we propose, some new information. We should never offer that amendment ourselves. On the other hand, we expect, I know a town meeting member, Michael Nyden, contacted me and said he definitely, this was a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if he's changed his mind. He definitely wants to offer an amendment that would delete the.
Michael Nyden is actually, I see that he's
Yes.
watching us on Zoom.
Okay, so I have great respect for Michael Nyden as a town meeting member and a member of our community who's done a lot for our town. I'm not against him. All I'm saying is that he probably will offer this amendment. And then the moderator will turn to us and ask what our reaction is to this. Do we support this amendment? Do we not support this amendment? And it seems as though we may as well discuss this tonight rather than waiting and discussing it around the table.
Absolutely.
So the question is then, if such an amendment is offered, do we support it? And why? What will we say to town meeting in supporting the amendment? And what I think we would say is that there are some concerns about setbacks. There are some concerns that we would reconsider this and especially address certain things and bring it back before town meeting. This is not a motion to refer, but by offering this amendment, we understand it's our intention to reconsider this and we may bring it back before town meeting.
That doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, so what do we do? So what is the response? I think the response is.
Support the amendment.
You think we should support the amendment?
Support the amendment, but say that we will restudy this and likely we'll bring it back before town meeting.
At a later date.
At a later
At a
time,
later
I'm
date.
saying when that is.
Yeah, to be determined.
I understand. Natasha, how do you feel about that? Do you agree with Jean?
I agree with Jean.
Artie, do you agree with Jean?
I agree with Gene.
Jean, do you agree with Jean?
Yes, reluctantly.
As would I reluctantly, Paul.
I agree and I don't agree.
Mm.
I mean, I've got no problem with it. I mean, if we're not gonna bring the amendment ourselves, then, you know, I'm reluctant to support an amendment that goes against what we're presenting to
Right,
town meeting. But
right,
my position would be more of a neutral position. Which is that, you know, we presented it to town meeting. This is the
what we recommend.
position of the board,
Yeah,
but, you know. If town meeting chooses to approve the amendment, you know, we've got no problem, you know, something.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Something along those lines, that if
Yeah,
town
I-
meeting chooses to approve this amendment,
we will restudy it.
we will restudy it.
chooses to,
To approve the
To
amendment.
approve the
Right.
amendment. Not to say that we approve the amendment, but
Right.
if town.
If town meeting chooses to approve the amendment,
Yes.
we are willing to restudy it and,
Bring it down later,
you know,
date to be determined.
and move on from there.
So we're not opposing it.
So we're not
We're
opposing
not
it,
opposing.
right? We don't oppose it, but we don't approve it.
Right. That's good.
That's kind of where I'd rather be.
Mhm. That's a much better way of approaching. I like that.
okay, so that's modified. Natasha, are you okay with that new modified approach?
I'm okay with that.
Artie?
So exactly, the modified approach is that if town meeting approves the amendment to separate,
And if it comes to us
then if it,
from the town, if the moderator,
yeah, looks as us for an opinion,
yeah,
yes. We will, if the town meeting votes to separate, and then in essence, obviously, then votes it down. We will then restudy it and then bring it back at a later date. We will look to bring it back at a later date to be determined.
And
That's what
we have
Liz
to be very clear on the wording, not the entire article.
just,
We need-
Just to
Just-
detach, just to detach.
Yeah.
part.
okay, so I'm clear. Now, as relates to, oh,
I'm not finished.
You are?
Yeah, was there anything else?
so, I don't know, you're the conch. So,
No, I think we're satisfied that's the position we
On
would take
that
on
issue.
that, if that amendment is offered.
did you have any other comments about addition on the ADUs?
Yeah, well, I do actually, I'd like to understand. Are we still trying to put together a report to respond to the finance committee?
I don't know that,
No,
I think in my,
Has that
No,
been given up?
I think they're wrong.
Well,
Personally,
of course they are, but
I think they're just finding an excuse to vote against it, because, you know, the fact of the matter is. There's a lot of history from other towns, which was presented
yes,
to the finance committee. That, you know, that there've been very few ADUs in the towns, and that it's basically had no impact
yeah,
in the other towns.
I got,
And I think the finance committee was told that. And, you know, I think we just let the finance committee make their presentation and not even respond to
but
it.
shouldn't we say something in our presentation?
so I was just waiting to get the conch back, but in answer to that, I wouldn't, sorry, I wouldn't affirmatively. We have no obligation and no reason to report back to FinCom between now and town meeting. But in my presentation, I will summarize the headline of the research that we've all been conducting over the last several weeks.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yes, we should do, yes.
As you ask that question, though. I don't have a problem. Maybe I will email John Connolly when I'm, when I've completed my presentation. And we have all and I have all the information. And to let him know that, actually, I don't, doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I don't mind doing that. I may.
And
I
did
wouldn't,
we,
but that's
We
But
didn't.
that's, but
We
that's
didn't.
my take of FinCom and my take of Mr. Connolly. That, I would not, to be honest, unless he's watching tonight,
Well, regardless,
I would not show him my cards before town meeting.
I don't have. I
Too
I
late.
just- I understand what you're saying, and yet, I think it's a good courtesy move. I don't have, they raised the comment, but I hear you.
I have no
Okay,
reason to be courteous.
so if someone,
Yeah.
may I?
I would like to mention with regard to the report that I did hear back from the planning director in Sudbury. And got exactly the report we would expect on that town's experience with ADUs. And as a good professional planner, he says, of course, every new person moving into a town has some minimal effect on the town. It's like a drop of water as far as whatever effect that person would have. But their experience in Sudbury has been so few new people coming from the ADUs in the past 4 years when he has been planning director, and he gave me the numbers. It's just so minimal.
Were these detached or internal ADUs?
They offer
Of course
both,
it is.
but they are mostly internal. Very few detached. They have a limit on detached. They only allow them to be put in buildings that were in existence 5 years ago. So that kind of skews it a bit. But as far as the overall impact of ADUs on the community, it really is nothing.
Negligible.
Negligible
Yeah.
is the best word, yeah,
So I want to turn, if I can,
yeah.
to to some other amendments that may come up if we're going to anticipate any. So as to, if someone makes a motion to remove rentals, we would just oppose that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You agree,
Or
Tasha? And then,
Well, except for maybe detached, because I don't like the detached rentals.
and then,
Well, no, it's a joke, but
Well, kind of how serious, I mean, well,
Yeah.
kind of more serious than not serious, and that is. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. Rentals in the main structure. You have an ADU there, people rent out rooms in their house all the time. They should be absolutely be allowed to rent out the ADUs. You have a detached structure. If the purpose of the detached structure, for example, is to allow the owner of the property to downsize to that detached structure, then that does not need a lease.
And very often, the reason why the elderly person or the elderly couple not stay in their home is not because of the physical infirmity that they need care for, but because they're now on a fixed income, their expenses are going up, they can't afford it, they need the rental income.
yes, exactly.
And
You got $18,000.
again, we'll get back to the original thought, which is the original purpose, which is to allow people to be able to stay in their homes.
Yep. Absolutely.
People are, it costs $3,000 a month. With no.
That can make a difference between being able to pay your real estate taxes and.
Oh,
not.
absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
$2,000 to $3,000 a month
Yeah.
is the tax bill and insurance.
Oh, yeah,
Assuming
absolutely.
there's no mortgage, but
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah, I'd
I'm
be against an amendment.
but if
to-
complicated amendments start being offered on setbacks and that sort of thing, would we oppose them?
So I think we'll probably sooner get a motion to remove detached. And we would in dealing with the actual setbacks. You raise a good question.
Mhm.
I think, I'm of several minds in this. One, I don't want to encourage anyone to make a motion to refer that back to us. But I also don't want to lose the baby for the bathwater. So I would probably at that point oppose if someone were to modify the setbacks. Well, my instinct is
The
is to,
setbacks only deals, the setback issue only deals with the detached
Yeah.
structures.
yeah, because the main house.
The main house is the main house,
Yeah.
they get their own setback.
Yeah.
Really.
You have the dimensional regulation.
I think the concern might be, the motion is made to eliminate detached entirely,
Right,
and then somebody,
and that fails. So
Right,
now somebody,
Fails.
so now somebody comes in and says, well,
yeah.
let's change the setback on
Mhm,
the detached.
yeah.
If that fails, then the articles, it sounds like the article's heading for success, possibly.
That's right.
if we get all of these motions on the floor, does it come to us for approval to debate them concurrently and vote them separately?
Yeah.
Or is
We have to vote
it
separately.
comes to us?
It comes to us, it comes to town meeting.
No. As a board, does the moderator, as a matter of procedure, allow it through the?
What will happen, what
Discretion?
usually happens is that the moderator will look at our table to see if one of us stands up. And if one of us stands up, he will call on us.
Right,
You know, that's the question, do we want to respond? We stand up, the moderator will generally call on us to respond before moving on to other town meeting members.
Was reading an article about a Cape Cod town that had a zoning amendment with complicated layers of amendments offered at town meeting. And my former colleague, as town council quoted, and the moderator required the amendments to all be voted at once. All right, the most recent amendment, you vote that first.
Right,
Then you go to the one, like suppose 4
the
amendments.
reverse order.
You go amendment number 4, see how that works. Amendment number 3, amendment number 2, amendment number 1.
that's what my feet does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
unless,
exactly
of course,
what
there's a
I
motion to
would
refer it.
happen.
If there's a motion to refer part of it, that may come first, is if that succeeds,
Would that
then
be-
all the other motions
that
just
may
go away.
overcome the other. the
So
other motions.
as to Artie's motion to refer. Support or oppose?
I oppose a motion to refer because except for the issues about the detached structures, we have vetted this. We have discussed this ad nauseam. We know our position. Except for the issues of that surround the detached units. I don't see anything for us to discuss.
I agree. And I think the issue with the detached units is that we haven't had one come in front of us, but I think in general, the FAR would cancel it, the stretch code would cancel it. I mean, you know, but it's just the unknown that we can't prove.
Well, it's a little more than that, like Artie has articulated. The issue of it turning, the whole town into a multifamily town, and we destroy the single family nature of the town. As builders turning the town into a multifamily because they're always going to build, or because they'll build 2 buildings instead of just the one. And that it's not, that by creating detached or allowing detached, we're actually not making the town more affordable, as Artie says, because it costs $250,000 to build, a 1-bedroom apartment detached.
Or more, they're actually doing this claims.
No, they can't
Yes, they can.
on the ADU.
Then they need,
No.
detached can be built from scratch.
It can be built from scratch, but it can't be any greater in size.
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
correct, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So,
The point
so
is
there are.
they're expensive. The point is they're expensive.
Right, sure. And that, right, which is part of the point I think that Natasha's making, that it's a limiting factor, whether they would actually be built, but in any event. I
It's an
guess,
interesting question, by the way.
of which part?
Of Artie's point,
Of a
the
builder?
builders will just build second building. I mean, that's an interesting question as to what the marketplace will want.
Well,
And
yes,
I think in a town like Needham, in today's town of Needham, I think the builders are gonna find that people want a single family house and that's what
Yeah.
they're gonna build.
I mean, from experience. From the research that we've conducted so far, I'm not aware of builders. Building new homes with ADUs. And I'm aware of. Builders building to the market when they're building on spec. And more people will have a natural preference for the finished area to be part of the main house.
Oh, and I completely get that.
With a potential attached ADU.
Mhm.
Because if I, if it's my parents, or if it's a nanny. You'd rather them have immediate access to your space,
Mhm.
because they're gonna be cooking food for your family, or you're gonna be cooking food for them. Even though they'll have their own separate kitchen and from time to time they'll use it, as opposed to being 20 feet away, or by our bylaw, minimum 10 feet away in the middle of a blizzard. Going back and forth, I think that the largest likelihood in my, is that a detached would potentially be used for, for a rental scenario, but.
But
Yeah,
it's all
all of this is-
speculation, right? I mean,
Yes, I'm just
so
saying
I
it's-
think we should talk about facts. I mean, this is what I got from the meeting. Yeah, it's all about facts and not speculating, because you could speculate a million scenarios and
Right.
may not hit any right. So I think it's just saying this is, what we found, this is what we think, and, I mean, these are the changes that we're making. And stay away from scenarios.
Okay,
Yeah, remember Sudbury what does Sudbury have for public transportation?
I mean, they're less desirable than Needham.
From a public transportation standpoint, yes.
So,
The planning director in Sudbury said, most of the ADUs, he says 20, they only have about 4 or 5 ADUs a year. And that only about 25% are detached, that 75% are attached ADUs. And he hasn't seen the main unit of the house rented out. He has seen situations, and we had one here in our town where the older couple moved into the ADU and their family member moved into the
Right,
larger
sure,
house.
Oh, sure.
That happens,
Sure.
but not the renting out
Yeah,
of the large house.
which makes sense, because what you're gonna have is the children and grandchildren
yeah,
are gonna be living in the main house.
assuming they like each
But
other.
It's gonna be interesting, we're going to allow ADUs for nannies. It's gonna be interesting to see whether people really build ADUs for nannies. Because I'm sitting here thinking, if I had a nanny taking care of a young child, I probably want that nanny to be sitting around the dining table with us, not going off to her own
Mhm.
apartment and cooking her own meals.
Mhm.
She's gonna be part of the family, she's gonna be part of the family.
Or they, and I've had experience with this, they'll be managing the kids, especially when the kids are younger. Cause that's when you have it.
That's when you have it, yeah.
And then they'll eat on their own after the kids to bed. That's or they'll eat before when the kids like resting and stuff, at like 4 or 5, but in any event.
And
I
there's
think it
probably
was-
not a lot of live-in nannies in SRB.
No idea.
Perhaps not.
So
There could be.
are we resolved then? Can we move forward on our agenda?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you all for that lively discussion.
And you're doing all the presentation.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, well,
Yeah.
it's for me.
I guess so.
It'll probably just boil down to one,
What do you mean, one what?
boil down to one.
One what?
Well,
Yeah,
one
well,
presentation.
There's really only one, because the other two are very simple.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the other two
Just
passed.
pass without a question mark.
On the
Yeah.
consent.
On the consent, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if someone calls
Although-
question on the setback, but let's,
although-
Yeah,
they
they could,
need
they
two-thirds.
could. All it takes is one.
that's right, like on the deers.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so can we move forward in our agenda, please?
Yes.
So, next is the minutes, which brings us to the minutes of February 7th.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of unclear things in that, and it might take a bit of time to.
So I have, Gina, I have it here. So on page 2, the highlighted. Mr. Block noted the following correspondence for the record, an email from Council of Aging Chairperson Colleen Shaler. Dated, etc., declaring opposition. What was she opposing? Withdrawal. So this relates to, no, she was opposing. No, that this is not about ADUs. This is about the 100 West Street project.
Yeah.
And she was opposing the, she was opposing the removal of independent living.
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't really before us, but shall we put in those words?
Yes.
The removal. Because I know that was the issue. In independent. Okay. Then what we talked about, Attorney Evans Huber represented noted some, what was it? He anticipates possibly April 4th, 2023, but would like.
He anticipated coming back to us, but he was questioning whether or not to do it before or after the election.
Oh, so all members can vote. He anticipates bringing this matter back.
Yes.
This matter back, possibly for two, but he would like it after the election. Mr. Crocker questioned which member, what was informed, it was Ms. Espada, which member may not be eligible to vote, and was informed it was Mrs. Espada. And the words that were there were, who had missed more than one hearing session. Is that correct? And should we leave those words in?
I don't know that it's necessary because it's just ineligible, but
But it is correct.
Okay.
so
then we'll
include
leave
it.
in.
Include it.
And then voted to allow, yeah, it says to allow the applicant to withdraw the application without prejudice. Is that
Yes,
probably what our
Yes.
motion was? Okay.
Next.
Then over to the next, I just thought the, apologies to you, Artie, that I thought this was unclear.
Where is this?
Page 3.
3, Mr. Crocker stated
Near
the
the bottom.
board,
No, keep
and
going.
here we're talking about
Okay.
zoning articles for the town meeting. The board has to allow for future structures to be built. They should
I was
stay in the
referring to,
bylaw.
I was, if we're talking about the ADUs, I was referring to the fact that if we're gonna allow existing structures 5 feet from the property line, then I don't think it makes, I think we should allow for future structures as well. I don't think it's, if we're talking about,
Oh, I see.
Which is what Paul had also
yeah,
said.
I think it makes
Yeah.
sense to allow for future ones. I don't think it's
Yeah.
right.
If existing structures are allowed to be ADUs, I guess. And then there should be something in the bylaw. Mr. Alfred Stanton, they did not go with that option. It has been in the draft. It should be, I just find it unclear.
Yeah. I see it. I mean, Artie was talking about that an ADU,
Detached ADU.
that a detached ADU, thank you, would be allowed for existing and new structures to be built. And there should be something, continuing the thought, there should be something in the bylaw. Mr. Alpert stated that we did not go with that option. And
Mrs. Spada asked for clarity. Because it wasn't clear.
right,
Right.
and then it was asked and answered, because then, but then you agreed with Artie on the lack of clarity. You agreed with Artie, I'm kidding, on the, on that concept. that
Maybe
it
we
was-
should just leave all the words in. and
I'm,
then have
I'm fine, let's,
clarity. Is that what we should do, really? I'm not kidding. Just leave it as it
Just leave it
is.
in, leave
Take
it
out the
in,
yes.
highlighting
yeah,
and then the clarity, and then it's explained.
Yeah,
Okay. And then the sentence, I suggested deleting the sentence, this
Yeah.
requirement may require people to violate another bylaw. What bylaw?
yeah, just delete, it was parking, I think, but let's
This
just delete it.
requirement, delete this requirement, I mean, okay, all right.
And moving on,
Taking
page
care of that.
5,
And then another, I'm here at the end. Mr. Block, no, Mr. Parker gave a legal definition for bedroom earlier. He wants it clear that it is his opinion and may not be the legal definition. And you, Adam, want it clear that that is Mr. Crocker's opinion and may not be the legal definition?
correct, I was making a
Yes,
discussion.
Yeah, correct.
Mr. Block wants it clear that it is Mr. Crocker's opinion, maybe. Richard Albert
Okay,
stated that this is a definition used for purposes of defining bedroom areas of subject. Okay, that, I understand that, okay. Then we'll leave that alone. Mr.
Different
Block,
municipalities do.
excuse me?
Then we've got different municipalities define a bedroom differently.
Yes, as it relates to different codes.
Yeah.
He does not want the public relying on public.
And Adam was the one who stated that.
Yeah, that he, we don't want the public to rely on it, and that the public should rely on the building commissioner
Right.
or a real estate attorney for an official definition.
Real estate agent that want the official definition
Of what a
of a
bedroom
bedroom,
Yeah,
exactly.
of, bedroom. All right, with those few changes, I think we're okay.
Well, there's another
There's-
highlight.
yeah, the rezoning for solar, that's fine, let's include that,
Yeah,
and that's it.
yes.
So come-
include that.
Would someone like to
That's
make,
it then.
would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of February 7th, 2023 as redlined with the changes discussed tonight.
second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will come to the vote. Paul Alpert, Artie Crocker,
Aye.
Natasha Spada,
Aye.
Gene McKnight.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We've unanimously decided to agree the minutes of February 7. The next item in our agenda is the summer and fall schedule.
Yeah, I don't know if people have their summer plans yet, but it is time to start thinking about our July and August dates because we are starting to get inquiries. And additionally, we'll set our fall schedule for our normal first and third Tuesday, unless there are usually some Jewish holidays in the fall that we will avoid. So I'll send those out to you, but I do want to know there's,
You had this list.
okay, perfect. It's-
Proposed 2023 meeting schedule, and it says, July to be determined and August to be determined.
Okay, so maybe we already checked the Jewish holidays for the fall.
It says it's first, third. all the way through.
What,
Okay, we'll
When
double
do we-
check
when do we have June meetings?
first and third. I can tell you the date. Those are already in your
It
calendars, I
says,
think.
it says in this chart, June 6th and June 20th.
Okay, I'm around for both of those,
Great.
What date?
6th and
6th.
20th.
And 20th.
Are you away, Jean?
That has been undetermined to our
Okay.
great frustration.
Fair enough.
We're still
Well,
working on it.
okay.
Oh, my annual, my cardiologist that day. That's always exciting. I'm otherwise available.
We may take a shorter than usual vacation and I may be here. Some
Okay.
person.
Does anybody have their summer vacation plans in July and August yet?
Yeah, I'll be gone middle of July to beginning of August. But I can do Zoom. I can do Zoom if needed.
Okay,
The only plans that I have are to be away for, starting on a Wednesday to
Okay,
on the weekend, so if we're meeting on Tuesday nights, then right now, I don't have a plan to be away.
I'm probably gonna be away a chunk in the summer because I'm gonna drive my son up to camp in Nova Scotia at the end of June, because camp starts, I think, on the 2nd. And then there's visiting day, I think on the 30th. So I'll probably be remote on the 1st, if we happen to do it on August 1st. And then I gotta go back and pick up my son on the 13th. So I'll be on the road probably from the 10th, 13th, and 15th, and maybe even a little later.
That's a nice little work trip, you know?
Yeah, it depends, 'cause sometimes
Yeah.
I have to bang it out at night and it's tough, but
So we
if we
typically
can spend some time.
once in July and once in August for our normally scheduled meetings. So, I mean, if you guys want, you can just maybe email me when
Yeah,
you'll be
fine,
gone, but it would be very helpful, I think, to, have something set, and then at least now we do have the complete Zoom option in the summer. If people are somewhere where they're able and willing to Zoom in, then we could always add that. So perhaps maybe that makes sense. Just email me when you know you can't do it, or whatever your plans are, and then I'll send out the dates that work and we'll nail it down.
We'll do that. With the Zoom option, there's no reason why I wouldn't be able to be at every meeting.
I will say that I think, to Artie's earlier point, we're gonna have a load for October. And, we probably will be meeting, more than once in July and August. Depending what happens here.
Well, we're gonna have,
meeting.
yeah, I mean, we have climate action meetings we're gonna be having to have for zoning related to our climate action.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have to talk about them. And I
Yeah,
don't know when we're gonna start talking about the MBTA Act. I don't know
well,
when that's gonna happen.
I'll come to that.
Well, just to reiterate, these are just our normally scheduled meetings, and any extra meetings,
We'll have
sometimes
to.
they're during the day or whenever we can squeeze them in where it works for everybody, so.
That's right. Okay, so report from our planning department and members. I've got something for sharing time, but you want to go first, Alex?
I don't have any.
Okay, so today Jean and I had a chair, vice chair with our colleagues and counterparts at the select board to discuss the MBTA communities. And what they've identified is, although our plan, and certainly from the housing plan working group, was to get this passed in time for May of 2024, a year from now, that we need to have DHCD state kind of approval of our plan. And because we can only reduce the scope of our bylaw, we can't expand it.
You mean the
with
scope
town
of the
meeting.
one that we presented to them? When you said
Oh, sorry,
bylaw.
thank you for that. So there basically, I'll take a step back. There's a timing challenge. Because we would have to go through town meeting and have our zoning approved at town meeting, and then we gotta get DHCD. They need 90 days to approve it.
The process is you send to DHCD, you propose to zoning.
Yes,
And they approve it, they have
Yes.
90 days to approve it.
yes, yes.
And then, if you're, oh boy, we're all set with DHCD, now we're bringing it to town
Town
meeting.
meeting, right.
Yeah,
So it would be basically pushed a year.
and another factor, if I may,
Please.
is that the town staff believe they need to hire a consultant
Yes,
to do all of the GIS work involved in testing any zoning amendments to make sure that they do meet the MBTA guidelines. And it is very complicated. I
There are
thought perhaps
multiple.
they would have a GIS person on staff and be able to do that, but they feel that they don't.
And there are
And
multiple consultants that will need feasibility, that'll deal with impacts, fiscal impacts, and school. So, but we fortunately have $60,000 in our planning budget, which should cover, those studies.
Do you
So
think
the time,
do you
that's
think
another
50,000
timing
will
issue.
cover those studies?
time to hire the consultant. It may take a
Exactly.
while, that's a timing issue. And then the process, they introduced a kind of a new timing issue.
Sorry.
The concept is, they want 3 state, Katie King presented, a proposal that involves 3 stages of public involvement. So you start out by presenting, to the public what's in the housing plan. This is our proposal, how to comply with the BTA. You get the public response to that. And see then where we're going with that. See what changes might need to be made. And then bring it back before the public another time after testing through. In other words, you don't go right away, hire the consultant, do the GIS testing with what's in this plan. Put it first out into the community. And then when you get a reaction and whatever changes you may want to make, then put it through the GIS, then come back with another community meeting. And finalize it, and then do the testing again, and then I think at that point you bring it to DHCD
Right.
and make sure they're happy with it, and then you bring it to town meeting, which it involves its own public participation process. So that's what we were told today, that they thought would be the best process, and it would necessarily mean waiting until fall town meeting. And the risk of that, I had thought, we bring it to next year's annual town meeting. And if it doesn't pass, we'll change it and bring it in the fall. But now if the fall, that's gonna be our only chance.
So I misspoke. I had said that it would be a year out. It's not that it's a year out. It means that we'd be working, instead of working to get this approved past a town meeting in May of next year, it would be October of next year.
That's right.
So, and then we also talked about striking up a steering committee that would include approximately 7 people. That would include, probably a developer, and then also a renter, and then someone from FinCom, someone, a long time Needham resident, plus an architect, and then a planning board member and a select board member. And we would appoint the developer and the architect. FinCom would self-appoint, and the select board will take care of the others. And then the co-chairs of that steering committee would be a member of this board and a member of the other board.
And I think we came down to 9 members rather than 7 by suggesting there should be 2 planning board members and 2 select board members.
I don't know that we're gonna do 9. It seemed like it was 7. I think it was just gonna be 1.
Where was that number come from? The conversation with the
Yeah.
select board the other night?
Today,
Just
yeah.
So,
today at 3 o'clock, a chair vice chair meeting, but I did think we ended up saying 9, but.
I have 7 in my notes. I'm probably gonna be either 7 or 9, and we can rock paper scissors for it. So that'll be resolved. But the point is that they've been very helpful in identifying the timing constraints. And we're starting to build through a structure. So we'll have a governance kind of body. And we'll have an updated schedule probably in the next few weeks. And so we'll track that and and share with you an update. I think we'll probably want to move towards, appointment, to strike up the committee, but that'll happen probably in the next, month. And then they're probably gonna, start the process in June of trying to find a consultant, but that's gonna take a little bit of time.
And I want to make sure we turn to Natasha, who served so much, so much work, put so much work into the housing plan. To see if any comment.
Yes. Tasha, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm just absorbing it. My colleague in my office is on the Lexington Planning Board, and they just got approval, right? So I'm gonna kind of tap into him and see what tools and strategies they use to be able to move it forward. But I don't know enough about it to comment right now, but I think I'm gonna do a little bit of research and see if I could, see if there's something
Yes.
that I can help with.
They did the whole town, didn't they, essentially?
Well, they did 227 acres.
Yeah, they did.
And they had a bunch of they had a couple of amendments that failed. So they were able to get it through. They were, I think, one of the first in the Commonwealth to do
They're
it.
the first. They were even in the New Yorker. Yeah, like,
And there was a great article there. There's a great article and several articles in the Boston Globe. But okay, so that research will be helpful. I know Oscar has been very helpful in tracking Lexington as well, and other municipalities, and so more to come on that. We have the parking study presentation from Stantec, which is coming to the planning board when?
May
May 12th.
May 12th
At 9:30.
9.
9 a.m. That's a Friday. And then, so that's good. So, yeah. It's gonna be busy. Yes, go ahead.
So board members, we typically meet before town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, so start.
So I wasn't sure, we can either meet right before in person, or we can meet earlier in the day in Zoom, or we can have a Zoom meeting and then have like a quick get together at the meeting at like 7 or 7:15 right before town meeting, so that we're kind of doing both, just in case anything comes up. But I don't actually think that we need to do just a double up now that you're not offering any amendments or anything. It seems like it. But anyway, the choice is yours. But we need to schedule this like a post meeting, and we might want to do something on Wednesday as well.
Or does the meeting carry
We
over?
definitely should, because just in case zoning articles shift over to Wednesday.
Yeah, which is likely.
Or should we just can we keep the meeting open?
That's another one.
Oh, you do?
We don't
Yeah.
want,
And
we
you
don't
guys
want
vote that on Friday?
For Monday, no, I have to post it on Thursday, but
No, but for Wednesday.
well, it depends on what time. I would like to post them both this week.
Oh, fine.
That-
So,
I like the simplicity of just showing up at the town hall early. It's better.
sometimes we end up having conversations just before, do you know what I mean? We've done in the past, like, I think a simple Zoom, we open the meeting and then we continued it to town meeting. And then at some point at town meeting, we moved to adjourn that hearing, right?
Yeah, or
I
you
mean,
just adjourn at the end of town
Town
meeting that
meeting.
night.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or, yes, because then Wednesday's its own separate thing. Just because that'll give us,
I don't think we're gonna get to the zoning.
so,
But we need to.
We've got all the finance articles, including the operating budget, before we even get the zoning.
so let's just, if we can pick a time. Let's pick a time. I gotta get out of here.
17, 18.
So town meeting is at 7:30. I say if you can get us a room in town hall at 7 o'clock,
And we're there.
when we're there.
Like, okay,
couple minutes.
So
so,
Monday, Wednesday, room at 7,
Yeah.
no Zoom.
so it's in person. And that would be so you're gonna check the date for Wednesday as well.
Check the date.
Well, sorry to check, yeah, you gotta check the schedule, make sure we've got the room, some room on Monday and Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the date that was there.
That's my job. Maybe, I want to ask if there's any articles on the warrant that, other than the zoning articles, that we want to, have anything to say about. Support or not support, or,
I didn't see anything.
Brad just got something in affordable housing.
when
I mean,
is,
I thought, I shouldn't, doesn't.
Reg's article is just a CPC article to vote funding for design for
Yeah.
some renovations.
Yeah.
This is the seabed, Captain Robert Cook.
Yeah.
yeah. The quiet zone article, I mean, a quiet zone has to do with encouraging development,
I think that's gonna be
in
withdrawn.
our community.
I think that's gonna be withdrawn.
So you said, yeah.
So you think it is?
I think so, for now.
Or because it's 215 numbers as far as the cost of valuation of study fees, and you're looking at 215 numbers. As far as the cost of this.
I don't know what the 215 is.
Well,
I-
the year, it's based on the year 2015. The engineering cost, what is coming to town meeting at minimum.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And also, there's no understanding of cost of maintenance of the equipment if we're gonna be responsible for it.
I've really gotta get out of here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a
Okay,
solo
well,
parent.
I just want to ask-
Okay, so 7 o'clock for meeting.
What's that?
Second,
Okay,
Second.
there's a motion, a second, any discussion, hearing none, all Alford,
Aye.
Artie Crocker. Natasha Spada,
Hi,
Gene McKnight,
Right.
the chair votes aye, we're adjourned. Thank you all for
thank
joining.
you.